Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm Mike Graham and this, of course, is the Mike Graham Show. It's the 1st of May. Some of you might think that's a great thing because it's the first month of a new month, and it's May Day for a lot of people, which used to mean something in the old days, but it doesn't really mean very much anymore. I'm delighted to say I'm joined for the first time on the show by Peter Barnes, political strategist. Peter, nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Welcome to the new Mike Graham Show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Which is not quite so new as it was. It's been going, this is month 5 actually, isn't it?
Really?
We started on January the 4th, so here we are. We just crashed through 18 million views yesterday, which is nice. 157,000 of you now are subscribers, but please do like and subscribe to the channel because the more subscribers we get, the better the algorithm is, and the more you will find you get to see more and more of what we do. Loads and loads of stories this morning to talk about. Of course, very much dominated the front pages by the stabbings in Golders Green. For some reason, Peter, the entire political landscape in Britain seems to have woken up to the fact that anti-Semitism is a bit of a problem.
Oh, yes, it's quite embarrassing, really, for them, isn't it? You know, it's Keir Starmer's speech yesterday, he would say, but it's racist.
Yeah.
And as though he's just suddenly realised, you know, that this has been happening on his watch, and, you know, if someone rather inflamed by his party, let's be real about it, it's rather ridiculous. I thought this statement was actually insulting more than anything, because yet again, that party and the government insist on treating us like children. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not a child. And I don't know why he talks down to people, because he's in no position to do that to anyone.
He really isn't. But it's almost as though he's suddenly gone, after sort of 2.5 years of allowing pro-Palestinian marches on the streets of this country, allowing people to say things in public and in the public square, to write things, to even say things in Parliament, you know, and he suddenly works out that's actually had a bit of a deleterious effect on society.
Yeah, it's you kind of wonder, don't you, just how hard were they dropped as a child on the head? Because it's the only logical explanation for just how out of touch these people actually are. Yeah. And more importantly, it is the way that they're suddenly kind of getting rid of all accountability, as though it's somebody else's fault. Yeah. I'm like, you're in charge. This is your responsibility. Yeah. You dropped the ball in a very bad way.
Like, how could this possibly have happened?
Yeah. It really is. They're desperate to try and find someone to blame.
Charlotte's running the ship today. Charlotte, are we in a position to play one of these clips? Because let us play what Starmer had to say yesterday about what he plans to do to now stem the anti-Semitism problem. Of course, it's all about money. Have a look.
We will strengthen the visible police presence in our Jewish communities, increase our investment in those Jewish security services. We will introduce much stronger powers to shut down charities that promote anti-Semitic extremism. We will prevent hate preachers from entering our country, bar them from our campuses, our streets, our communities. Work with our justice system to speed up sentencing on anti-Semitic attacks, so there is a stronger deterrence factor, as we do with riots. And we need stronger powers to tackle the malign threat posed by states like Iran, because we know for a fact that they want to harm British Jews, which is why we will fast-track the necessary legislation. And yet, the truth is, while we can...
I mean, but he doesn't want to go to war with Iran,
I know, that's the one thing I was just thinking.
We need more powers. Well, how about you go to war with them then, like America has? Yeah,
my big thing is, what powers do you want exactly? Because his thing is just about controlling our right to free speech. That's what this is going to be yet another excuse for. It's just to clamp down on social media. That's all he wants to do. This guy has a paranoia about social media. He thinks it's all the world's ills are born from it, rather than realising it's an amplifier.
Well, I suppose he doesn't blame the far right, to be honest. I mean, that's what he normally does.
I think he's desperate for it. I mean, I can't help but notice that the case that MI5 put forward for those neo-Nazis, suddenly that was released yesterday. I thought that was quite a little bit convenient. But I mean, for him to say that, you know, like, we know for a fact that Iran wants to harm British Jews and yet will not do anything about it when presented with the opportunity to actually, you know, take on Iran. I mean, it's just
we'd like to use your bases to bomb Iran, which apparently is about to harm British Jews. No, you can't do that. No, because we don't want to do that.
Don't forget international law.
International law. Absolutely not our war. Also, breaking news this morning, we've got the man Essa Suleiman, who's the guy who was arrested for the stabbings in Golders Green. He's been charged this morning, so there's a limit, obviously, to what we can now say about him as an individual, but he has been identified as a Somali-born character who came to this country when he was a boy and who became a British citizen sometime thereafter. And of course, Nigel Farage has come out and said that basically they would deport him and for reform would take a very hard line. But the problem is, for an awful lot of people, there's dozens and dozens and maybe hundreds of people like this guy in Britain. And of course, he was referred to prevent, wasn't he?
Oh, that phrase. It shouldn't even exist in British consciousness, that phrase, because if you're known to prevent, you shouldn't be out on the loose, realistically. But I think this shows, yet again, it's a capacity problem. There's that many people on the list of prevent that, you know, that it's pretty much impossible to keep track of everyone. But I will say, you've got to ask yourself, why was he given British citizenship?
Yeah.
Why is he a British national?
Right.
What value has he actually added to the nation?
We asked this question yesterday, you know, under what sort of scheme did that happen?
I'd love to know.
And what are the qualifications and how do you qualify?
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem as though there's many different ways of doing it. It seems like it's pretty straightforward, you know, yes, tick, and you come. Thank you very much.
It's also quite telling that they always lead with British national.
Yeah.
I mean, not the most pressing bit of that nationality bit of his ethnicity that we need to know about, is it? And it's very telling that yet again,
well, they're desperate
authorities
to make out that he probably didn't come here illegally on a small boat. Although, I mean, who knows how he came
here? Well,
that's
half the problem. It doesn't matter whether you come here by a small boat or, you know, you come here legally. You get given the same, you know, red carpet treatment as everybody else does, unless you're a British citizen.
Absolutely right. Here's another clip for you, right? This one's even funnier than the Starmer clip. This is Shabana Mahmood talking to Nick Ferrari yesterday at LBC. Again, trying to explain what it is that actually is going to change, because they're full of these ideas that, you know, we've earmarked £75 million to regenerate Golders Green and to make sure that people are re-educated about anti-Semitism. That's not going to make any difference. You know, you don't just throw money over. And check this out. This is what Shabana Mahmood thinks is going to change things.
This is all too many words from you, from the from the Prime Minister, from the London Mayor. The Prime Minister saying we must deal with the roots of anti-Semitism. What does that look like in practical terms?
The government has already funded more money for education so that we can tackle this hatred at root.
What sort of education?
Target that children specifically through our schools so that we can start to clamp down on what is becoming a more permissive environment for
what additional classes are held? To tell me how that works. What is on the syllabus that wasn't there before?
Well, this is a programme that is being led by the Department for Education. They've made £7 million available, and that is being developed as a new tool for schools to use in order to tackle anti-Semitism. There are also reviews into what more we need to do within our schools, colleges, universities, and in our NHS.
Meanwhile, there are firebombs and people being stabbed. Can we stop with the reviews and have some action?
I do understand.
He's right, isn't he?
He's 100%
all they
correct.
do is talk about, we're setting up a working committee, a steering. It used to be called a steering committee, didn't it, in the old days? You know, we're going to have a review. We're going to dedicate some more money. We're going to. The point is you've let too many of these scumbags into the country, and that's why there are so many people who are anti-Semitic here. Because, you know, somebody was pointing out only yesterday there was yet another pro-Palestine march going on, even in the wake of this character stabbing some people.
I know. I always remember there was one literally the day after the Manchester synagogue attack, and I thought, what country have we turned it into? But on this one, the reason they throw everything to a committee is because they don't have to make a decision. They wait for the recommendation, and then that is the decision. It's all about kind of kicking the can down the road. This government and the British establishment has been experts at it for the last, 20 years, I'd say? When was the last time you ever saw anybody actually make a decision? The idea that anybody has that Shabana Mahmood is somehow this kind of great Home Secretary, I don't see it. I don't see it because, you know,
well, what's she done exactly?
All this, the issue on the small boats, everything is in her purview. It's all got worse. It's not got better.
Right.
So in what world is she any good? Everyone's listening to the words. They're not looking at the actions. And yet again, we're left wanting.
Yeah, I mean, when we were hearing just the other day from some Labour people about, you know, the whole Mandelson episode and trying to sort of brush it under the carpet and saying, oh no, you know, nobody's talking about it. We don't, you know, we want to talk about our achievements. So I heard one MP actually say, and I can't remember who it was, the small boat numbers are actually coming down. And I go, no, they're not.
Yeah,
who told you that?
I know.
They're absolutely not coming down. They're going up.
Well, don't forget, Darren Jones said they were all women and children coming across at one point.
Yeah, well, his eyesight's not so good.
He had the bare face to say that on Question Time on the BBC, and it was only, I think it was Zia Youssef, I think, that had to pull him up on it.
Yeah.
The Fiona Brewster's kind of let it slide. I was like, you can't just allow these people just to lie. And then I love it when they say, "Oh, we want to talk about our achievements." That's a very short list.
It's a very short list. It doesn't take very long to do that either. But you know, this whole idea. I mean, a couple of people on the chat this morning on YouTube saying, you know, the one word you won't hear Keir Starmer saying is Muslim. He won't actually blame the Muslim community for these anti-Semitic attacks. But let's face it, all of the people that are getting arrested, all of the people, the pro-Iranian people who were done for firebombing the ambulances, you know, they're all Muslims. Just say it.
They want to get to the root causes, but they won't name the root cause.
Right.
I mean, it is laughable that, you know, they still think as well that they've got the Muslim vote.
Yeah.
They don't have that
No,
anymore. The
they've
Green
already
Party
gone. They've lost that.
have rather usurped that from under them. But they're just floundering. They just don't know what to do because everything is collapsing at the same rate at the same time.
Yeah.
And they are so far out of their depth. They have no plan for government when they came into office. Just thought change.
Yeah.
That's enough.
And the reason why they've lost the Muslim vote is that the Muslim vote believes the Labour government is actually not pro-Muslim.
Yeah.
Everybody else who's not a Muslim thinks they are.
Yeah.
And that's where they've got a problem because, you know, when you see Zach Polanski, and we've got another clip of him to show you in a minute, you know, he's absolutely and utterly straight down the throat of a Muslim voter. And he was actually defending this week, yesterday, the idea that there could be a pro-Palestine march even in the wake of the stabbings.
Yes, yeah. I was interested to see Samart Raleigh slap Polanski down pretty hard.
That's on the front of the Telegraph today, isn't it?
I was like, that's a pretty turn of events, but considering. But Samart Raleigh said that the Nazi flag needed context at one of these marches. Or like, in what context does a Nazi flag down Whitehall exist? Or like, I'm sorry, this is the guy who's in charge of our policing, and you wonder why these events are happening when that is the situation we find ourselves in. It is a leadership problem, it's accountability problem, and until we actually get people that know what they're doing, things are just going to get so much worse.
They really are. I mean, basically, Samart Rowley's on the front of the Telegraph saying, accusing Zach Polanski of inflaming tensions by criticising police over their response to the Golders Green terror attack, because what he said was they shouldn't have kicked the guy. They shouldn't have kicked the guy in the head.
Yeah.
The guy's got a knife. You know, he's lying on the ground, sure, but I mean, when you're a police officer and you're facing a life and death situation, you're going to kick people in the head.
Yeah, you wonder why we've got a recruitment problem. Yeah, you wonder why we've got a recruitment problem in the police when that is a potential, you know, a power maker in the country. He hasn't got your back against a guy with a knife who's attacking Jews on the street. In what world are we living in? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like I said, I just presume a lot of people were dropped on their heads as children. Yes. It is the only logical explanation.
No. Well, Owen Jones was another one who was questioning the police's motives as to what he said. I just need an explanation as to why they're kicking him in the head. Because he's a terrorist.
Yeah, I'm going to say, if this was America, there's a question, they probably would have shot him.
And let's not forget, you know, in these situations, and I mean, I remember on the weekend, that idiot Brian Cox was on Laura Kuenssberg's show, and he was complaining about the fact that the American assassin, would-be assassin of Donald Trump, was not wearing a shirt, as if they'd somehow, you know, stripped him of his dignity. Well, it's like, well, they want to know if he's wearing a suicide vest. And it might well be that the police in this case wanted to know if this guy maybe had a suicide vest and maybe was able to detonate something. So you want to knock him unconscious, don't you?
Exactly. It wasn't the guy in Manchester. Wasn't there a suspected vest in that situation? So, yeah, of course. Again, you have to try to think that the police officers in these situations have literally got milliseconds to make a decision. And we've got to have their backs. They've got to be trained well. And of course, there's got to be accountability. However, you know, in that situation, it's all power to them. And quite frankly, it's always very telling. It's always the same rogues, isn't it, that are always blaming the police, but never the terrorists.
Yes.
It's always the same gallery of rogues.
It's never the terrorist's fault. I'm getting a lot of people saying they can hear beeping, Charlotte. Can you hear beeping?
No, I can't.
What is the beeping?
You said that you can't hear.
No? I mean, I'm hearing it in my ear. It's almost like a sort of WhatsApp
that's what I thought it was, actually.
But there's no WhatsApps coming through, so I don't know what it is. So if you can hear beeping, it's not just in your head. It is, as ever, one of the mysteries of life, which is what we sometimes get from time to time here on the Mike Graham Show. We're never quite sure. Should we play the Zach Polanski clip? Here he is being asked about what he said about the rights of people to march around asking for a free Palestine in the wake of people being stabbed in a Jewish community in Golders Green. Check it out.
Shabana Mahmood said that she was disappointed to see pro-Palestinian marches go ahead after the attack last night across the country. She said that she thought it was dishonourable. She said people could have just stepped back and given communities a day or two to grieve and process what had happened. Does she have a point, do you think?
No, I think Shabana Mahmood is also being deeply irresponsible. There's a lot of it about, I think, ultimately conflating protests against the genocide in Gaza and ultimately weaponising that against an anti-Semitic attack on our streets, a terrorist attack, is deeply irresponsible. And again, democratic, non-violent protest is a cornerstone of our democracy. And I think it's worrying when government are increasingly trying to crush down dissent and again using what is a brutal attack that many of us in the Jewish community, in fact all of us in the Jewish community, are feeling very deeply, to try and use that to point at a protest and say people don't have a right to also speak out against the genocide is both conflating issues, it's incoherent, and it's exactly the opposite of what we need from politicians. We need statesmanship in this moment. We need responsibility. We need people to be sensitive about their language, but also recognise that there is complexity to this, and it can't just be about finger-pointing at people who are very worried about a genocide.
People are very worried about a genocide, and we mustn't finger point, even if you're finger pointing at a guy who's a terrorist, who's just committed a terrorist act.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, isn't it just? And also, what does he know about statesmanship?
Oh,
this
God.
is a bloke who changed his name.
I don't think he can even spell the word.
Used to massage women's breasts just by thinking about them. You know, what the hell does he know about statesmanship?
It's ridiculous. I mean,
What's
you
he talking about?
You have to remember that the Greens were reported to counter-terrorism police for rampant anti-Semitism. So he's very, very quick to get this story out of the headlines and start talking about, you know, the right to protest, which is what these people do all the time. I mean, the fact that we still have these hate marches, the fact they call them peace marches, I find perverse. I mean, they are literal hotbeds of anti-Semitism. They are funded by a foreign power. We know this. The Prime Minister's just confirmed it, and yet they still want them to go ahead. It is
because
just
freedom
idiotic.
of speech.
Right? Oh, that whole line of, we want to talk about the genocide, we want to talk about Israel, and all this kind of, we're just attacking, we're just criticising Israel. No, you're not. We see exactly what you're doing. And it is, I mean, that is the worst bit that's not been called out hard enough.
I know that is the problem, isn't it? That there is such a double standard. And the fact that we've got to this place in our society is because of politicians like Zach Polanski and because of politicians in the Labour government who have kind of championed the side of those who would say that there's a genocide going on, which, by the way, has never been confirmed, even by the International Court of Justice. Even they don't call it a genocide. So, you know, nobody does. And yet we are supposed to believe that, you know, a responsible so-called leader of a party is allowed to say that on TV.
Not to mention that the Gaza war actually ended a couple of months ago, but nobody seems to remember that bit, do they? Again, it's also the useful idiots, you know, that run around protecting these people, you know, pushing the narratives out into the public space. That, I mean, you've got, at what point do you realise that you're the bad guy, that you're the villain? You know, I know self-awareness isn't a great thing on the left, but you have to develop it at some point. You would have thought.
Again, to go back to what we said at the start of the show, you know, what we've got here is a government that has sort of suddenly woken up to the fact that there's an awful lot of anti-Semitism going on in Britain, and they bloody well encouraged it.
I mean, when you import it from the third world and you bring it here, they don't just leave the views and values at Calais. That's the thing that they keep forgetting. Although it is the entire flaw of the left's idea behind the migration crisis is, you know, they're only bad people because of where they are. If we bring them here, they'll be good people. And I mean, how many more dead people or attempted stabbings do we have to have before they are proved incorrect?
And again, leading even up to the stabbings, we had the ambulances being set on fire. We had the whole kind of, you know, synagogue problem where synagogues were being attacked. You know, it's not as if this has suddenly come out of the blue and suddenly some character formerly from Somalia has decided to go and stab somebody in Golders Green. This has been going on steadily for the past 2.5 years.
They also want to jump on October the 7th. I mean, Sky News were terrible for it. The moment there was a synagogue attack, it was all because of October the 7th. It was like, this again, it's been going on significantly before that point. And the one thing you always have to ask is, despite the fact there's been a rapid increase in anti-Semitism, the funding that went to the security of mosques the security of synagogues went down compared to the amount that went to the mosques, despite the fact that the number of Islamophobic attacks went down. I was like, the numbers don't make sense, and they have to be political. It has to be political.
Of course.
It is just perverse.
Well, and this will cheer you up, right? We've now got Sadiq Khan joining in
wonderful.
on the thread. And he's promising yet more money to solve the problem of anti-Semitism. Have a look.
Following the horrific terrorist attack in Golders Green, which has been the latest in a series of attacks on our Jewish community, Jewish Londoners understandably want to see more action, not just words. So I want to set out the action we're taking. The Met has surged the policing presence in northwest London, which will continue over the coming weeks. And the government has announced an additional £25 million to boost police patrols in Jewish communities. I welcome this announcement. And I'll be continuing discussions with the government about the additional funding I believe is required to deliver the long-term step change in policing that Jewish Londoners expect and deserve. Getting the police response right is critical, but that alone won't be enough.
Anti-Semitism is a certain view of Jews which...
We need to confront the growing tide of anti-Semitism. This requires us to be tough and uncompromising with anti-Semites, but also to tackle the root of the problem. That's why I'll continue to work with and fund initiatives from City Hall that are running programmes to prevent radicalisation, combat anti-Semitism and promote community cohesion.
So we're in the Haverstock Secondary School in North London today, and we've been delivering here a workshop on anti-Semitism for Year 10 students. The Mayor of London's office, via its Shared Endeavour Fund, helps support the Anne Frank Trust to deliver these kind of programmes, these workshops on anti-Semitism across many boroughs across London.
I won't rest until Jewish communities feel safe in our city once again. I urge all Londoners to join this vital fight.
What's the missing word, Peter?
Oh, Islamophobia, Islamic
Muslims.
Muslims, yeah. It's ridiculous.
No,
yeah.
let's not mention Muslims.
Oh,
It's nothing to do with them.
Yeah. My favourite thing is both
pure
of these.
and simple anti-Semitism.
Yeah, both
nothing to do with
pretty
Muslims.
much every official we've seen. The only thing they could do to actually make London a safer place is resign. I think they'd literally just resign and go away and find somebody else that can actually run this city and run this country and make sure that people are safe. It is not difficult to understand where this problem is coming from.
Right.
It really isn't. And yet, like you said, the fear
Maybe
of
they
saying
shouldn't
that
be in
word.
Haverstock School, which is in northwest London, which is probably quite what you might call a kind of a neighbourhood community school. Maybe they should go to places like Tower Hamlets
Exactly.
and check out what the schools are like there, and maybe tell them not to be anti-Semitic, because that's where it's coming from.
Well, they'll probably get run out of the place.
Yeah, probably.
That's half the problem.
I mean, it's just extraordinary, isn't it? And of course, Starmer went up to Golders Green yesterday. I don't think Sadiq Khan's ever been anywhere near any of the places that have been attacked by
I don't think he can point to it on a map.
No, I don't think he knows. But Shabana Mahmood and Keir Starmer went to Golders Green yesterday. And guess what? They got booed. Check it out.
Well, our Home Affairs correspondent Sonia Jess.
Mark Rowley got the same treatment, the Metropolitan Police boss as well. He got sort of shame on you chanted at him. So we've got a poll, by the way, today. We do a poll every day. This one is Starmer getting booed in Golders Green. What would be the soundtrack for him? Would it be Hit the Road, Jack? Another one, Bites the Dust, The Sound of Silence, or You're So Vain. At the moment, Hit the Road, Jack, I think, is 55% coming in as the current leader. But you might have a couple of ideas of your own, in which case you can send them in and we'll read those out as well. Keir Starmer's a traitor was something that was being bellowed out yesterday while he was there. Because he is.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're a member of the Jewish community, you can't feel in any way kind of confident that he's going to actually improve your life at all.
I mean, how many stories do we have to read of people who are Jewish living lesser lives? They hide the fact they're Jewish. When you have to have school kids take their blazers off for safety on a bus, something has gone wrong.
Yes.
Something has failed. And it's just staggering to me that we've got to this point.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you've
and
actually
also, I mean, I know Jewish friends of mine who are not leaving yet, but who are talking about the possibility of leaving.
A couple of my friends
and to go live in Israel.
Yeah.
Because Israel's safer.
They want to move to a war zone because it is safer.
Yes.
That says everything.
It does.
It really does. And yet again, we're told that, you know, it's probably far-right fascists or whatever. That's actually the problem, you know.
I mean,
all that, those
even
roaming
this
groups.
morning, listening to another radio station on the way in, talking to people who were extremism experts, they managed to get far right into the conversation. You're going, hang on a minute, you know, this is an anti-Semitic, pro-Muslim, activity which is currently going on, and you're mentioning the far right. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the cover of the Jewish, I think it's the Jewish News, that they had a kind of, it was like a bingo card of all the nonsense phrases that come out, like attack on the Jewish communities, attack on all of us, we've all got to stand together, that kind of thing. It is literally, it is like bingo, but it's the worst kind of full house that you win.
Absolutely right. Just before we let you go, Peter, let's talk about a couple of other stories that are knocking around on the front pages. I sort of missed this one yesterday because it kind of slipped through the net, I suppose, in all of the madness of what was going on in Golders Green. Ed Miliband basically ruining anybody's hope of having a tumble dryer. Apparently tumble dryers are now the enemy, and they must be outlawed, and they must be beaten with hammers, and you must no longer be able to own one.
Yes,
because it's too dangerous to the planet.
Oh yes, heaven forbid that a tumble dryer might be, just as bad, but it's ridiculous, isn't it? I can't believe we're having to have a conversation about this.
Right.
Yeah.
What is wrong with this guy? If you've got a washer dryer, does that mean you have to get rid of that as well?
You're on a list.
I mean,
the next thing, Sue Gray's putting you on a list somewhere.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, there's a great cartoon on the front of the Telegraph. Matt says, basically, there's a couple looking at their tumble dryer going, Ed Miliband's banned our tumble dryer, so we've turned it into a log burner instead, which is probably the right thing to do. I have to hold my hands up and plead guilty as charged because I've got a washer dryer in my flat.
Yeah,
what does that mean?
I think mine's actually energy efficient.
I mean, I can't even lift it up. I mean, how am I going to get rid of it?
I know, yeah.
I'm on the third floor.
I'm going to
chuck it out the window.
I'm thinking I'm on the 9th floor,
I mean, it's not right, is it?
It's crazy, but I know there's great calls at the moment for Keir Starmer to kick him out of cabinet because there is a reshuffle coming because it's the last hand of a failing prime minister. So, Rachel Reeves and Ed Miliband are very much on the chopping block. But I'm like, he's not going anywhere, and there's still a threat that he might be the next prime minister. And if that happens, I'm heading to probably to somewhere like Israel because it's probably safer.
Ed Miliband? I mean,
I've said this. The further away from your life, Ed Miliband is, the better your life is.
Yes, absolutely. According to the Times, though, apparently some Labour ministers and MPs have launched an anyone but Ange campaign to stop Angela Rayner from getting anywhere near number 10.
Yeah, there is a big call for that. I
think I would endorse that as well.
Yeah, there's a big call for that. The shine of Big Ange getting into number 10 is quite strong, actually. I mean, even the New Statesman have got quite a few articles running about how it's actually, when they say it's allies of Angela Rayner, it's just Angela Rayner telling people. If you remember rightly, she basically briefed very openly against Rachel Reeves. She'd left a dossier in the pub conveniently in front of a group of journalists.
Yesterday where she apparently walked into a door. She was so pissed down at the House of Commons, so she walked into a door, and the door had to be taken away and repaired.
It's in therapy.
She's so much of a unit,
What's your best story?
Kelvin's
pissed, though.
I've got plenty of those. Don't worry. It'll be about 4 hours. Kelvin's in the house. He's already trying to usurp Peter's spot there. Also, what else have we got? Whiskey firms drink to the King because King Charles manages to go to America, manages to charm the pants off Donald Trump, and Donald Trump sticks 2 more fingers up to Keir Starmer and lifts all the tariffs on whiskey.
Oh, without a doubt. He did it in honour of the King and Queen. He did it in honour of, sticking 2 fingers up to Keir Starmer saying, I'm just going to cause you even more trouble. Yeah. Just like the Falklands one was. Did nobody have a problem with the fact that the leak came from the Pentagon?
Yes.
And yet again, they were all suddenly lost our minds. Of course it was a strategic leak. I mean, Donald Trump plays these people like a cheap fiddle. And every time they take the bait and then they suddenly wonder why Donald Trump even exists. It's because of their stupidity.
Yes,
it's
true.
Just hilarious to me every time.
Absolutely right. Beefeater is the latest retail chain to go under. Apparently 3,800 jobs going from there.
It won't be long till the actual Beefeaters are on the chopping block.
I know. Well, they probably can't afford those. And also, one of my favourite stories is in the Times today. This is Jobsworth of the day. Apparently, Brian May lives in a little village in Surrey called Elstead. Kelvin might know where that is. You know where Elstead is?
I do, yeah.
Apparently, Brian May, the Queen guitarist, lives there, and he wanted to brighten up the village green by planting a load of daffodils, right? And apparently, the local council have told him he can't do that because it might be dangerous for the traffic. I'm not joking.
For the traffic?
I'm not joking. They're saying that, people won't be able to see beyond the daffodils and they'll start crashing into each other.
Oh, God's sake.
I mean, I don't think they're giant daffodils. So he's a bit disappointed.
You wonder why this country's in the state that it is. And the actual local government is, I call it the dumpster fire of British politics because, my God, it's pathetic.
I know.
These people are just pathetic. Who gave them any power? We have to stop giving the stupidest people the most power in this country. We've got to stop.
I know, it is absolutely extraordinary.
It's like we're living in a terrible carry-on.
And more bad news for you as you wander off. Apparently, inflation is going to hit 6% soon.
Only 6.
Great. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, that's my thing on that one. It's
Well done,
only
Rachel.
6%.
Yeah, fantastic. Peter, great to see you. Thank
Thanks
you very
for
much
having me.
indeed. Peter Barnes there for the first time. I'm sure we'll have you back.
Yeah, thanks.
I think you passed the test. What do you think, Charlotte?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely have you back. Well,
sober.
I can't tell you. No, I can't tell you. Obviously, that would be giving away the home secrets of the Mike Graham show, which is not allowed. So, Kelvin McKenzie coming up. We've got lots of you to talk to as well over the course of this show. We're going to talk to Christian Drogan, the Bishop, our favourite Bishop, Dura, is going to be in later. William Clouston from the SDP as well. Philip Kisley is going to be here. Rolf Schulhammer as well. It's all going on. First, though, let's get some news. Is it with Fiona McLeod today?
It is, yes.
Fiona McLeod today. Edward Hughes is off. Have a go.
Good morning. I'm Fiona McLeod with your news on Friday, 1st May. The terror threat level remains severe after the Golders Green stabbings. 2 Jewish men attacked in what police are treating as terrorism. Keir Starmer turned up for the photo op and got properly heckled because nothing screams strong leadership like a Prime Minister getting told to jog on by his own side. Meanwhile, it's the last PMQs before the locals and Kemi Badenoch is sharpening her claws. Labour's current governing strategy appears to be hope nobody notices. In other news, the weather, actually nice today. Blue skies, proper warmth, the works. The nation is collectively suspicious. We're all waiting for the freak hailstorm, plague of frogs, or surprise 40% council tax hike to ruin it. Please remember to like and subscribe. See you later, alligators.
Fiona McLeod with the news there. Thank you very much indeed. Kelvin McKenzie's in the house. Very good morning to you, sir.
Hello, matey.
Welcome to May. Happy May Day, I suppose you should say.
Yes,
it used to be a big day for the old workers, didn't it? It used to have trade unions used to always have it off.
Do you know what,
march
though?
around.
I was thinking about that on the way in. So I get the to come to this august broadcasting outfit. I get the 6:43 from Weybridge.
Yeah.
And do you know what? It was packed.
Was it?
It was packed. By the time we reached
That's surprising,
kind of Surbiton or whatever. And all I was thinking was, do you know what? There's a lot of people say, you know, don't work, there's no this, there's no that, there's no that. These people, right, every day of the week, right, including the day before a weekend
it's a bank holiday,
holiday break, the people were flogging themselves.
Yeah.
And, you know, I felt proud of some of the people who get up every day and go to work, and I wonder
pay their taxes.
And what has happened and how they feel. How do these people commuting every day, or everybody else who goes to work every day, wonder how they feel when they read about people claiming benefits and stuff like that. What I do know from the Twitter sphere, that the hatred towards, and I don't like using that word really, but towards Rachel Reeves is off the scale.
Yeah.
So yesterday they announced that 3,800 employees at Premier Inn are going to go.
Yeah.
And the reason they're going to go is because of the huge increase in business taxes and the huge increase because of the way it worked through national insurance.
Yeah.
Do you know what? People are beside themselves. They're beside themselves that these taxes, which are going to go direct to the people who aren't on the 6:43, to Waterloo every morning. And I don't mean Waterloo, I mean everywhere. To Manchester, to Liverpool, to Newcastle, right?
You can't give it up. He can't stop.
I'm only pushing back slightly at some of the.
It's fair enough.
Some of the tabloid that I receive from the northwest sometimes, or one particular city in the northwest. So anyway, one day when she is unbelievably running the IMF or something, she may learn about what economics really looks like. People who work hard are entitled to keep their money and spend it as they will. Those that have chosen to sit outside the system, then I'm afraid they have to pay for that. It is not for the hard-working people to pay for people who have made a lifestyle choice.
Well, people who come here from other countries, and I remember talking to, there was a couple of Polish makeup artists that talked, and they said, we can't understand how this country works. They said, if you're in Poland, right, you haven't got a job, you don't get any money. so everybody works. It's like a no-brainer. And they're kind of going, how is it possible that you've got a country where people can literally spend their entire lives not working?
Correct. And the one question mark I have about Nigel Farage, who is incomparably cleverer, especially about something that he said yesterday, which we'd like to come to, than anybody else. My one question mark about is he worth my vote is his attitude towards two-cap benefit. Okay, so he was saying, actually, I want to scrap it too, right? Which would have cost us billions.
Yeah.
And actually, wiser counsel have prevailed, and now he's not going to scrap it. He's not going to scrap it. We're going to keep the two-cap benefit. What worries me is, does he believe that there are more votes in keeping the benefits at this stage than there are at scrapping them? And I say, be bold.
Yeah.
Nigel, be bold. Say you're going to do this. Yeah, you'll lose votes, but you won't lose all the votes. You will gain other votes instead. And it is a mistake to believe that trying to woo the benefit classes, many of whom have made lifestyle choices as distinct from having their jobs lost on them, right? And if they were lost, they are Labour economic policies that have cost them, then that is a decision that could well decide whether you get into number 10 or not. Be strong on these issues. It's painful, but do it.
But wasn't he trying to be a bit nuanced about it as well, which I think he may have perhaps decided that he got a bit too wrong and a bit too complex? Because what he was saying was that we need to have more people having kids in this country because there is a problem with the population, there is a problem with the birth rate, and what he wanted to do was to say, you know, British families can have a lifting of the two-child benefit cap, but people who were born overseas couldn't. But then you couldn't hold that line.
You can't.
It's too complicated, isn't it?
It was too complicated. Yeah. And secondly, let's be honest about it, without getting into the too much into the weeds of all this, that this was likely only to benefit for potentially one part of society. Yes. And honestly, I don't blame any families not having extra children. People are very concerned now about forget about what the world looks like.
Yeah.
What does the UK look like? The Polish point you make is fantastic. So all the Polish builders have gone back. The Polish builders, you ask anybody who's ever had an extension, done this, that, or put a loft in, or whatever they've done, right? When they've come across them, they are astonished that these people are coming in at 7 a.m. and are going at 4, and actually there are no breaks. Very, very few breaks. And the only thing that's happened is, if you're having an extension of any kind, the price has gone through the roof, and you're sometimes amazed. Although I've just come across an English builder, by the way, from Crawley, fantastic guy called Mark. Well done to you, Mark. Right? Look, I'm sure there are some great British builders.
You can't get them though.
But they're hugely expensive. Yeah. There's no competition. Why? Because all these guys have gone back. We should go and make a Polish segment to our Employment Act to say that you particularly can come here, right? And we want you here.
Yeah, absolutely right. Speaking of jobs going, Beefeater are also now announcing that they're losing their business. They're shutting it all down. Basically, 3,800 jobs going. And interestingly, Colin Robertson in The Sun writes, growing up in Chesterfield in the early 80s, there were two things you simply had to have on your birthday: a Star Wars figure and lunch at Beefeater's, which is kind of true, isn't it? I mean, I don't think I've been in a Beefeater's for God knows how many decades.
But I think that's really the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't one of the problems is that Beefeater's itself has not become attractive.
Yes.
What's the other place? What's the place where you can get the most fantastic...
The Carvery, Toby Carvery.
Toby Carvery.
People love that.
Oh, honestly, do you know what? The funny thing about the Toby Carvery is that you measure it by height, not by width.
Right.
And
is it not the case you can visit as many times as you want, so you can just keep going?
But you can go up there and get extra vegetables and stuff like that. Vegetables is not a required thought process in there. The thing that made me laugh once is I was in the Toby Carvery. I love the Toby Carvery. I was in the Toby Carvery, and actually somebody was having their wedding reception in there. Honestly.
Brilliant.
Honestly. And the people were having the time of their lives.
Yeah.
The value at a Toby Carvery is off the scale. Gravy, off the scale. Right? the desserts. The desserts. It's like a.
You should become their spokesman.
Oh no, I'd love to be. I'd love to be. Imagine. No, honestly, the value aspect of a Toby Carvery.
Yeah.
If you. It's worth driving to one.
Yeah.
It's worth driving to one if you haven't been to one. Look, I'm sure a lot of your viewers spend half their lives there.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not something you see in London much, is it? But you're probably outside of London, you see them everywhere.
They're difficult to find.
Yeah.
They're difficult. So I knew the FD, or I know the FD of the company that owns that. They make a fortune.
Yeah.
And how they make a fortune is beyond me. I don't know quite how it is because
it's the
volume.
Weatherspoon's theory, isn't it? You know, pile them high, sell them cheap, and away you go. You can just fill the place up.
Also, the food was nice.
Yeah.
It wasn't as though, sometimes you can go into some of these places. There's a place around in my high street that's just open. I went to the kind of third day there, and the food was, I don't want to name it, I don't want to damage it, but it was, or actually improve the chances, saying, well, Mackenzie's not there, it must be good stuff.
Yeah, while he's here, you can go. Yeah. Right?
So it was beyond dreadful.
Was it?
The opposite is true of it. You're right that there aren't enough Toby Carvery. So if the investment chiefs of the company that owns Toby Carvery are listening, right? Please open one around my way, since I want to end up looking like Mike Graham.
That's right. Everybody does. Kelvin's not just after free Costa, says Kalamazoo. He now wants free Toby Carvery food as well. I mean, he's got no shame, this guy. It's absolutely shocking. There's one 5 minutes from my house, says Vivian. Yeah, I mean, the trouble is now. And I'm sort of, because we're all a bit older, and I don't have to take my kids out anymore because they don't want to hang out with me anyway. But when you had 2 young kids and you go to a pub for lunch, nowadays you costed about 100 quid.
Yeah, no.
You don't get any change out of 100 quid for a couple of hamburgers and a sandwich.
Right, so here's a good point then. I totally buy that. Very expensive. Not only that, the kids then spend their entire time on the phone, right? So they're not talking about whatever or being, or just getting into life. So I go out with some family members a few months back.
They're still speaking to you then?
Some members of the family are, yeah. You don't want to have too many of them talking to you.
No, that's true.
Because they're only sitting there trying
I just had a massive row with my lot last night. So,
did you?
I was speaking from experience at the moment, I don't think they're speaking to me.
So and the other thing you have to be careful of at a certain age is that your children and your grandchildren are actually trying to poison you, because actually the only value they see in you is in being dead. Right, because
you are. Well, I'm well past the point now where I'm actually worth more dead than alive.
Yeah,
and you reach that conclusion and you go, well, it's all over for me now.
What about your partner? I mean, or your ex-partner, however you like to put it. I mean, she must be sitting there putting the old
she is this
thallium.
She is this morning. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she's definitely doing that this morning. In fact, it's so bad, I'm not even sure I'm going down there this weekend.
No, well, it probably lowers the council tax when you don't appear in the area. An alert goes out. He's here.
The dog is the only one that cares about whether I turn up. I mean, nobody else. I mean, the rest of the people don't care whether I'm there or not.
Do you know, it's a good relationship with the dog, though, because at least they're not likely to argue with you or point out the futility of your existence.
No, the dog thinks I'm brilliant. Is the only living creature that does, which is fantastic.
Well, you should get. Is it male or female?
He's male, yeah.
Yeah, you should get him to call in.
Yeah,
because he'd probably be the only intelligent guest you'll get.
It's very smart, very clever dog. Now we've got Ralph Schulhammer to speak to about life in general. Lots of stories this morning on the front pages, of course, about. He's just been charged, by the way, which I presume you probably know. Which means that we can't really get too much into the individual story of this man from Somalia. Who apparently came here as a child, Essa Suleiman. But the thing that I was saying this morning, Kelvin, was,
go on.
Which was, it's as though Keir Starmer suddenly woken up, and so's every other politician, and gone, we've got a bit of an anti-Semitism problem in Britain. I mean, has he not been watching what's been going on since October the 7th?
And so why do you think, so you're Keir Starmer, I quite liked his speech, by the way, and I don't agree with the chanting by the crowd. I recognise that they're enormously upset. I didn't agree with him chanting Jew hater at Starmer. That is absurd, right? First of all, he's married to a Jew to start with anything else.
Although somebody was telling me that it's her father who's Jewish as opposed to her mother, which makes her actually not Jewish.
Well, she has kind of has the choice. But you're right.
Yeah.
But, at the end of it, he's not a Jew hater, right? And I don't think it helps the argument to chant that at our Prime Minister. I just don't. Right?
I don't think he does either. But you can understand why they are, though.
I can, but he's incompetent, right? And he doesn't believe in anything day to day.
No.
Suddenly he's decided anti-Semitism is a vote winner. Oh, I must join in on that. I do accept all of that, but he's not a Jew hater, and it damages the argument.
He does have a problem, and that is that in both he and Sadiq Khan, in all of their words that they made yesterday, and all of the speeches that they made yesterday, they didn't mention the one word that everyone wants them to say, and that word is Muslims.
Correct.
And he won't say it.
Correct. He won't say it for political reasons, and also. I think, nor will they deal with the basic argument that the reason that there is severe out there now, and we're only just a minute away from 7/7 almost, you know, is that that they won't accept that the reason there is an atmosphere in this country and there are crimes like this going on our streets and 300,000 people worried about when they step out of their homes every day is because of the increase in the number of Muslims coming to our country. And these people are coming to their country, and actually they still continue to fight wars going on in their own country. However, let me just say this on the good side. In Dubai and Abu Dhabi, the Iranians fired 500 ballistic missiles, 2,000 drones at the UAE, right? The reason that virtually none of them landed was because Israel lent them a prototype laser and other defensive equipment.
Like an Iron Dome thing, right?
A fantastic example of Jew and Muslim working together, right? Broken overnight, by the way, by the FT who were being briefed, okay? Financial Times, this is not something that's suddenly been invented by some PR agency or something like that, right? So there is hope out there. If two countries like Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Israel can work together against the common good, surely it is possible in our nation for the same to happen between our people. The Jews are being pursued by very, very nasty, hopefully minority, mad followers of Islam.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
well, a lot of people think that the whole reason for 7/7 in the first place, October the 7th rather, in the first place, was that the Abraham Accords had happened, and you know, the Jews, the Israelis and the UAE were already doing business, you know, because there used to even be flights between Tel Aviv and Dubai, but suddenly they began, because my daughter, as you know, works there, and she was like, you know, there's now cooperation between Israel and the UAE, there's commerce being done, and suddenly it all stopped when October the 7th happened, and a lot of people think that that's why October the 7th did happen, because there were certain aspects of, or certain parts of the Middle East who didn't want it to happen.
Correct.
Right? And that's the problem. Let's talk to Ralph Shulhammer, though, who's here with us. Because see, Ralph, very good morning to you, sir. You can see,
great to be back.
Great to see you. I mean, you can see this pattern in every single, probably, European city, I would imagine, if you look closely enough for it. Suddenly, you know, politicians, Keir Starmer in this country, suddenly discovered anti-Semitism.
Well, you know, better late than never. But once again, and this is a little bit what I hear from the British public, which I think is a criticism we should take seriously, is this is horrible. I think, you know, the British have a long history. I remember in the 1930s, there were the Cable Street riots, was more or less the British working class stood up to the Union of British Fascists in defense of the Jewish population. So I think Britain usually in these issues stands on the right side of history. However, I will add, and this is an uncomfortable topic, but we need to talk about this. Violence against the British, against the English, is as much an issue as this. So the outrage about anti-Semitism I fully share. But what about the outrage that maybe happens on programs like yours, Mike? But what about the outrage about anti-English activity and anti-British activity? So that sometimes strikes me as a bit odd. That again, I'm not belittling it. And on the contrary, I think this is dramatic and tragic. But this is horrible as Southport was horrible. And I think we should speak open about this. So this is not just somebody against the Jews or Islam against the Jews, but it's also a cultural fight that involves the English.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, the problem is that so much of this has been going on for such a long time that people have kind of become immune to it almost, you know? You kind of, you speak to people, I speak to people every day who say, you know, Britain's changed, it's not the same as it was, it's full of different people, it's full of different ideologies, and, you know, again, very similar to other parts of Europe.
So I once spoke to a journalist from Mexico, and she made a similar argument. In Mexico, the cartel violence is so present every day that people are completely hardened to it. So if you open the newspaper, there's the mayor of a small city has been hanged from a bridge. They don't really care about it anymore because it's there all the time. But I don't think that's the point in the UK. I think what you mentioned is that we're getting used to it. I think what the people in the UK are increasingly getting used to is a sense of the political class is not going to do anything about it, or the current political class is not going to do anything about it, which is why they turn to new movements. Like,
there's a big echo on the line, apparently, Ralph. We're going to just try and fix that before we come back to you. Ralph's right, isn't he? I mean, he's talking about how, you know, the sort of Western Europe altogether has kind of changed its face over the course of our lifetime, anyway, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, and there's nothing that can be done about that, you know. I'm afraid we need to have a moratorium on more migration to the country. We need to calm down people's attitudes towards this change, and it's not helped by the idea we've got summer coming up, and the nightly news will be a very, very large boat. The idea they're called small boats is ridiculous. Why don't they?
Well, they got 100 plus people on them.
Yeah, and on that basis, people feel upset. And if we have a poor economy, and people feel upset about the changing nature of our nation, and there's nothing wrong with them having a view. There is nothing wrong with having a view, okay? What I do notice is if I ever post anything on Twitter, one of the aspects that comes back is there's an enormous pushback. The left are really across, because it's the comments which people actually have a more impact sometimes than the original thought process. They're very clever. So those that want no borders in our country are actually very, very active PR-wise. They represent a minute number. They represent what Polanski's numbers will be at 2029. He is going nowhere. The man is mad. The party is made up of nutcases, and actually they should change the name from Greens to Browns or Purples. They're not green. I can understand the green argument. I can understand it. It's not for me.
But they don't make it, though.
They don't make it.
Right.
There's not a word about it. And the stuff he's saying about kicking those police officers. This guy had a knife he was not going to use. By the way, they didn't need to guess about whether he was likely to use that knife. He'd already used the knife twice and would have used it on them.
And also, I mean, I made a big song and dance at the beginning of the week about Brian Cox, who appeared on Laura Kunsberg's show, you know, the actor, who's a complete nutter and seriously mad sort of Scottish nationalist, right? Hates Donald Trump with a passion. And is sort of pointing out that the assailant...
What's he doing on a political show?
I have no idea, but they keep inviting him back. He's on it about once a month. You know, it's ridiculous. But he was going on about the guy who, you know, was the would-be assassin who was trying to kill Donald Trump inside the Washington Hill, not wearing a shirt. And he was sort of saying it as if he'd somehow had his rights removed from him. He's like, why is he not wearing a shirt? Well, probably because they want to make sure he's not wearing a bulletproof vest or not wearing...
Or got a bomb.
Or a bomb. Or, you know, some kind of suicide vest. That's why he's not wearing a shirt, you complete idiot, right? And the same goes for this guy. They didn't know if he had some kind of device on him. So, of course, they're going to kick him in the head. You know?
Even if he didn't have a device on him, he never had a device on him. He's sitting there with a knife, right? No amount of tasering has stopped him to release the knife, right? Release the knife, bang, right? I am enormously grateful to that guy, right? He gets up off the floor and he goes and attacks more Jewish people. He was there to kill, and kill. And he, as it's now emerged, right, he allegedly had, have you ever noticed that every time any of these attacks take place, the person involved in it has mental health issues, right?
And they've also always been referred to Prevent, even though Prevent have apparently not done anything about it.
Well, prevent should be renamed encourage.
Yeah, right.
I mean, they don't seem to be. They don't. But however, there may be so many people out there, Mike, that they are actually stopping from going forward. But Polanski, all he's going to have vote for him. Write this down: is idiot 16-year-olds in 2029, as it becomes abundantly clear that this is made up of a nutters party, even to the point where I now see that the Greens, or whatever they are now called, the Browns as I prefer them, right, are now saying the guy who runs the Welsh Green Party, God, how small was that one, right, is now saying that Polanski was wrong.
Yeah.
He should never have raised that.
Right.
And the reason he raises it, because this was a Muslim who was being kicked in the head.
Yeah.
And so he says to himself, I wonder whether there's a vote in that.
Yeah.
Right, okay,
there is.
we'll throw the police under the bus because actually there are more Muslims than there are police officers, and therefore I win the vote.
Although, have you
no,
noticed
he doesn't.
Since the Labour government have worked out that if they do give the vote to 16-year-olds, that they're all going to vote Green, they're not going to do it now. So they've gone, actually, hang on a minute, we might believe that a few years, because clearly, as you say, all the 16-year-old kids would vote for this guy, but nobody else would.
No.
Are we going to try Ralph? Okay, let's try Ralph again. Ralph, sorry about this. We're trying to figure out your sound. You carry on.
No worries. How's it now?
Is that better? Well, we won't know until the people start telling us that it's not good.
Well, somebody wrote in the chat that it's my speakers, but I'm using headphones, so there are no speakers on my own. So I don't want to blame you.
Most of the people on the chat are saying it's fine now, so hopefully it is fine now. But anyway, you carry on. So you carry on. Continue.
Well, I just very shortly said what I said before for those who didn't hear it, right? As I said, anti-Semitism is a problem. It's a growing problem, but it's, in my opinion, it's a phenomenon that happens now in parallel, of course, with attacks on British institutions, on English institutions. And I mean, I give you continental Europe as an example. I mean, the number of church burnings in France over the last couple of years is absolutely astounding.
Right.
And to this very day, I'll be very open with you. Yes, it's a conspiracy, but it's one that I actually give credibility to. I don't believe that all these churches were the victim of arson. Yet Notre Dame, the most important one, that was some guy who forgot to put out his cigarette. Sure, that's certainly what happened.
Yeah, of course.
We all know that. I mean, because this would have probably caused some reaction within the public, more than if you burn down some random church in the countryside, nobody cares, even though people should care. But if you try to burn down Notre Dame, it's something different. And people are, and this is something I have to be very open with you, Mike, and this is also a message to the Jewish community in the UK and in continental Europe. Not individual Jews, but many of the official institutions over the last couple of years have sided with the parties and movements that were for mass migration and open borders. To this very day, I followed the debate in the UK very closely. Right, you have members of the speakers, if you want, of official institutions that continue to push for multiculturalism, which is, as Winston Churchill, a famous British person, once said, that an appeaser is somebody who hopes that the crocodile will eat him last.
Right.
And this is a similar situation. You say, no, please don't hurt us. We are for multiculturalism. We welcome you. Okay, fine. Then they might attack somebody first. But as we saw now, they actually attack them first. So this is something we need to talk about. They play a very negative role. I think the echo is back.
Is it? Okay, well, I think everybody can hear it fine.
Okay.
But why do people not want to talk about, say, for example, the churches being burned? What's that about?
Well, because the strategy to save multiculturalism has become that we just don't talk about all the negative consequences. I mean, imagine you would do this with anything else. Imagine you would run campaigns for smoking, and you would never mention that probably smoking also has negative side effects. And this is pretty much what's happening. And by the way, the one country, to go back to what Calvin said before, one country that knows this very well is Israel. If you talk in Israel with people about the behavior of some of these official Jewish institutions in the West, they say the same thing. They say we don't know what they're doing. And many, by the way, of them are also openly anti-Israel. And one last point, if I allow me to throw a little bit of a match or put some gasoline onto the fire.
Okay.
I very often hear the point, so why can't it be like the United Arab Emirates? Why can't it be like Abu Dhabi? Why can't it be like Qatar? But let's be honest here, these are not real countries. I mean, this is like one extended family lording over 88% of the population who are guest workers.
Yeah.
I mean, these are not Abu Dhabi. United Arab Emirates, they are not a nation by any meaningful sense. So they're completely different, like Iran, because say whatever you want about Iran, which is also not necessarily a nation, because I think there are fewer Persians in Iran than there are white people in the United States. But these are countries that have a historical consciousness, right? They reach back in history. These are formed nations, if you want, even if they're multi-ethnic. This is simply not the case for the United Arab Emirates. They cannot be a role model because they're very exceptional.
Yeah, and you can't. There are lots of things that you can't do in those countries. Ralph, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Ralph Schulhammer there, talking to us about a whole manner of things. And funnily enough, I was talking to a guy. I was in a podcast with a guy in Israel the other day, and he was saying there's an election coming up soon, which Netanyahu may well lose. It might end up that he gets replaced by somebody else. But he said, the funny thing about elections in Israel is that, do you know who holds the balance of power? The Arabs. And you go, sorry?
Yeah, that's true.
Because there's apparently a group of Arab politicians.
No, it's a massive problem in Israel that that the Arabs, there is a race between the Jewish population and the Arabs who live in Israel. And almost certainly what's going to happen in order for Israel to be maintained as a state where Jews from around the world who have been pursued for thousands of years by various countries and various pogroms, right, are going to have to give reduced civilian status to the Arab population. Otherwise, they won't be in charge of their own country.
Well, that's it. And the thing is, when you listen to these anti-Semites going on and on about, we've got to stop Zionism, end Zionism, the Jewish state this, the Jewish state that. The Jewish state is not actually a Jewish state. There's plenty of people who are there who are not Jewish, who live there, who have the same rights as people who are Jewish.
Well, one of the attractions, by the way, we should all go and live in Israel, is there's no inheritance tax.
Oh, that's a very good thing.
Yeah, so
they've got some rather nice beaches as well.
Lovely beaches. I used to go and stay in a house owned by a English lawyer who had a house in an area called Nevershedig. Honestly, I thought it was basically Claridge's on Sea. Right. It was literally a fabulous house. And walk out down the road onto the beach. It was a very, very nice and safe life. And the thing about the Israelis, they are either a war machine or they no longer exist. Every single day of their life,
and they have to fight
they are fighting. And watching Iran's Navy and Air Force and actually being destroyed, it must be a great moment if you're an Israeli, because the only country in the Middle East that was a threat to them was Iran. And watching them now, I feel sorry for the people, but in the end of the day, these people have continued to give power to these mad religious zealots whose number one and only policy is to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. The number one policy. It never changes. They like the idea of destroying another nation. So Israel says, oh, you want some? And they give them some.
And meanwhile, there's an awful lot of them living here who've got the same wish, unfortunately, as well.
Okay, so this is my point about... So Nigel Farage had a throwaway line. Okay, not much reported, actually. Actually, the only time I saw it was on GB News, where he gives an interview, and I think he must know. He said, the reason that it's been raised to severe, he didn't say this, by the way, he didn't say this, but it was kind of co-joined these announcements. Basically, is that a series of Iranian operatives have arrived by boat at Dover. Now, suddenly we raise to severe. It can only be that our intelligence services believe that there are a group of people wandering around. If that turned out to be true, if there was a 7-7, a Manchester Arena, or even another Golders Green, or a Bolton, right? If that happened, I want to see our government actually then start turning the boats back. If we don't know who's on those boats, and the reason we don't know is because they throw the passports away, then in that case, none of them can come in because they're killing or could kill our people.
That's the point. And we also know that that's already happened because they arrested a whole bunch of Iranian co-conspirators, if you remember, probably a couple of years ago, who were involved. And all of them had come on the boats as well. But they were an organised group of men, 4 of them, who had been caught, interfering in all sorts of different situations operations and planning all sorts of terrorist attacks. So we know it's going on. They do know it's going on. They just don't, they're kind of turning a blind eye to it because they don't know what to do. But let's go and have a bit of news before we carry on, and some super chats as well. Charlotte, what should we have super chat wise? Let's have a look. One from David who says, Green King, 3,000 jobs going. Whitbread, 3,000 jobs going. Beefeater collapsed and gone, 3,800 jobs. Labour have destroyed the hospitality industry. Well, I saw a story this week, I think, that said 3 pubs and restaurants are closing every single day at the moment. And that is really part of the problem. Dr. Max says this, they will have a meeting to discuss a review about a committee about an inquiry. Yeah, well, that's what Starmer said. You know, we'll be setting up a committee, we'll be having a review, and, you know, that will be, give us a few more...
well, what about the line? What about the line where he always says that it's not who we are?
Yeah,
it is. It's who they are.
It's
not who we are.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Leon says multiculturalism is the dumbest concept ever. Groups of people have different ideas, preferences and morality. Thus, they created their own countries hundreds of years ago. Tribalism is natural.
Good point.
Well, that's a very good point. Yeah, you can't have every single country exactly the same. Why does Fiona's heron look filthy? I don't know. Bam Bam. We'll check that one out. That's one for another day. But we're going to go to Fiona and get some news headlines in a minute. This one from David. He says, Mike, are you aware that Swinny the Ninny is claiming credit for removing whiskey taxes? What an absolute pellet. That's a good word. I've seen that one before. It was the king of our happy and glorious UK. Yeah, well, if Swinny's trying to claim victory for something that he had nothing to do with, that would be nothing new, would it? I mean, Swinny can't really claim victory on anything.
No, the fact that he's actually running anything is utterly bizarre. Do you know, I can remember a time, thanks to kind of movement, loads of intelligent Scots used to come to London, and they used to run our...
A lot of them in the business of newspapers, actually.
Newspapers, also in finance.
Yeah.
And actually, we all used to say we should have a Scottish education system.
Yeah.
Right? Now that they've decided that actually their benefit status is higher, and honestly, the rich are getting the rich. Ordinary people are being taxed more and everything. So nobody leaves Scotland anymore, right? All right, Scotland's a lovely place. I totally get that. But we have lost any form of mobility of brains.
Yeah.
And what's happened to the Scottish education system?
It's collapsed, isn't it?
Okay, so that's another thing. They're sending out as many dumb people as potentially we are, right? So what has happened? What has happened to that sense of, you know, if you've got something about you, come down to the south for a while, earn your money or don't earn your money, like it or don't like it, then go back home or whatever. All that.
Yeah.
We seem to have lost that.
Yeah.
And you know, all right, house prices are high, rents are high, but I want to see the young Scots, the young Welsh, the young, especially, by the way, still a good education system, Northern Ireland, coming over to the mainland, right, and trying to make their way in the world, seeing how it works out, and then make your decisions. That is not happening anymore, and it's to our detriment that we haven't got this kind of mixture going on. So we need, right, anyway, look, I won't go on about it. One other thing before I bore the arse off all your viewers. It's too late. They've gone. Right, it's this one. Have you been following the story the other day? Afghan asylum seeker.
Yeah.
You know where it's coming from. A bloke who comes here from India on a preferred working visa, right? Jolly good.
Yeah.
How do they spend their time? They spend their time stealing 62,000 iPhones in London, representing 40% of all the thefts in our nation. Right? They come to our country, right? Oh, we're coming to improve ourselves. We're coming to escape tyranny. Oh, no, we're not. We're coming here to steal your iPhones, make a fortune, and eventually get caught because there was on my iPhone, as there is a tracer on it. Somebody traces it to a DHL. The DHL go and look to see where the phone is, and they find, 1,000 phones.
Do you think they've got Morgan McSweeney's as well?
No,
Nobody knows who's got
that will be the first phone that learns to swim down the Thames. Here we go.
Yeah, nobody knows what happened to that phone. Anyway, let's get some news with Fiona McLeod.
Morning. I'm Fiona McLeod with your news on Friday, 1st May. The terror threat level remains severe after the Golders Green stabbings. 2 Jewish men attacked in what police are treating as terrorism. Keir Starmer turned up for the photo op and got properly heckled because nothing screams strong leadership like a Prime Minister getting told to jog on by his own side. Meanwhile, It's the last PMQs before the locals, and Kemi Badenoch is sharpening her claws. Labour's current governing strategy appears to be hope nobody notices. In other news, the weather, actually nice today. Blue skies, proper warmth, the works. The nation is collectively suspicious. We're all waiting for the freak hailstorm, plague of frogs, or surprise 40% council tax hike to ruin it. Please remember to like and subscribe. See you later, alligators.
Thank you very much indeed, Fiona. Coming up in this hour, we're going to be speaking to Robert Jobson a little bit later on. We're going to be speaking to Philip Kisley in a moment, the professor, and also William Clouston's here from the SDP. I think he's got an announcement to make on this show. Very much keeping himself up to date. Jacob Rees-Mogg as well was outside Downing Street last night talking about the Jewish diaspora and how much we need to keep it sort of alive, if you like, in this country because of the great, speaking of the contribution of the Scots. Yeah. He said, imagine a world without Jewish people. Imagine Britain without Jewish people. Because that's kind of what you have to think about now.
Do you mean without? Honestly, I have worked pretty closely commercially with enormously number of very clever Jewish business people, right? It is a joy. It's a joy on two sides. One, they're 10 times cleverer than me. And I find myself on the wrong end of most of the deals, right? And sitting there going, how did that happen?
Yeah, right.
Right, there is that. But also their humour, their interest in their families, their whole series of normal stuff, right?
Yeah.
I have, it's been an absolute joy for me in my life. If I would say what was the most interesting things that have happened to me, it is almost always working with Jewish business people.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's say a very good morning to Philip Kisley, who's here. Philip, very good morning to you.
Oh, hi, Mike. It's great to see you.
Good to see you too. I mean, we've been marvelling here at the revelations that are coming out of the mouth of Keir Starmer, who seems to have suddenly discovered that there's a bit of an anti-Semitism problem in Britain, which he's only just noticed.
Yeah, he's only just noticed. Well, he's been in the bunker, remember, for weeks, and everybody absolutely loathes him. So it must be terrible, mustn't it? You know, a terrible atrocity happens. You know, week after week. And he goes there, and the people he's supposed to be comforting, the people he's supposed to be showing solidarity to, all absolutely loathe him. I was at the protest last night. You were just talking about Jacob there. He gave a brilliant speech. Toby Young was there as well.
Yes, I saw. Yeah.
And Josh Cowie, and it was just such an incredible atmosphere, because I think, as Kelvin's just said, we risk having intelligent, brilliant, witty, contributing Jewish people just leaving the country en masse and having them replaced by small boat migrants who can't seem to stop raping people. That's the situation we're in at the moment, and Islamists who want to kill people.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of replacement. People talk about demographic replacement, don't we? That is one kind of replacement. We don't want any kind of replacement, but there's one kind of replacement we don't want.
No, exactly right. But yet, why has it taken this government so long, one, to discover it, and two, how do they not work out that they've been largely responsible for creating an awful lot of it by allowing week in, week out pro-Palestine marches, you know, allowing certain members of their own party to say things which are clearly inflammatory, anti-Semitic, you know, pro-Palestine, pro-Muslim communities, you know, and they won't say the word Muslim. I mean, we were looking at what Keir Starmer had to say yesterday and what Sadiq Khan had to say, and they won't use the word.
No, they won't. They won't actually identify the perpetrators. They won't identify the problem. You could take them kicking and screaming, and they just will not say what the problem is.
Yeah.
And if you won't identify a problem, that problem will not go away. It will just get bigger. And the reason is, of course, because it's their whole ideology, their whole treason. Anti-Zionist, it's anti-Semitic. If it's anti-Semitic, it's really by definition anti-Western. And if it's anti-Western, then anti-British. And this isn't just the government, it's the civil service, it's the blob, it's the human rights lawyers, it's the university lecturers, it's the teachers, it's the unions, it's the NHS, the public sector workers. It's all of these things. This whole, I would say, treasonous ideology, anti-British ideology, has infested our institutions, has infested our politics, has infested our education, and it manifests itself most violently in anti-Semitism. But it is also an ideology that is positioned against us all. Now, if the government actually just said, right, hang on, we got it wrong, we got the ideology wrong, that means that they got everything wrong, from mass immigration to every kind of policy, because it informs every single kind of policy. And they can't do that, because if they do that, immediately they have to say, well, everything's wrong, we have to step aside, there's a national emergency, everything we've done is terrible. But it also impacts on them, because these people who are obsessed with identity politics, Mike, it's about them, it's narcissistic, it's about them. And you see it from, it isn't just anti-Zionism, it's the trans stuff and all of that kind of thing, and we see it in classrooms. So if you've got a trans teacher standing in front of a classroom festooned in rainbow flags, then the children cannot debate or push back on that idea of identity, because if they do, then they are attacking that person, and this is how this stuff becomes so pervasive.
And what do you think the effect of the government recognising Palestine, for example, as a state, when nobody else was doing it? I mean, what effect did they think that was going to have on these people, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, why did they do it? They did it in a craven way because they wanted the bloc Muslim vote, which they'd already anyway, which is quite interesting, isn't it? Because if they do that, they actually think that Muslims are just, you know, anti-Semitic lunatics who want to kill Jews. That's what they think. I'm not saying that. That's what they think.
Right.
If they are recognizing a terror state run by a terror organization, Hamas, what else can they think? You know, but it's also their backbenchers. It's also their student politics. It's also the fact that our country has changed so massively in the last few years. We are now a sectarian hellhole. You know, you just see it. And David Betts, viewers will be familiar with David Betts, who's done lots of work on civil war, and he says that civil war is not only coming, it's here, because it doesn't manifest itself just in massive altercations on the street. It manifests itself in smaller skirmishes, and the kinds of stuff we've seen over the last few weeks are classic foothill or stuff. So we're in a terrible, terrible situation. And as I said before, all of this stuff manifests itself most psychotically, most pathologically in anti-Semitism and a visceral hatred of Jews.
Yes, it really is extraordinary. And you know, as Kelvin said earlier, you know, the idea that Jewish people are thinking of moving to a war zone in order to actually get away from a place which is more dangerous than Israel is extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, it just says that Britain is fast becoming an uncivilized country. I mean, we know now that it's becoming a dangerous country, but it is becoming an uncivilized country because over the last 30 years, we have been saddled with mass immigration that nobody, not one single person in this country voted for. And government have said, we're going to sort it, we're going to deal with it, and they never do. So what we have now is London with minority British. We have cities and towns across this country that are all but unrecognisable now. I think about places that I knew and where I grew up. I grew up in Bury, so Rochdale, Oldham, Bolton in particular is Bolton is unrecognisable now. It used to be a lovely town, and that isn't multiculturalism. That's monoculture.
It's monoculturalism. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, have you ever been to any of these places, Kelvin?
Oh yeah, no. I got into a bit of trouble once. I'm with Nick Ferrari, and we've got on a cab at Manchester to go to Bolton.
Yeah.
And the Bolton driver had such a broad Bolton accent, I couldn't understand him. Right. I'd had a few drinks. Nick Ferrari had more. And
why were you going to Bolton?
We had a radio station there.
Oh, okay.
And anyway, I clearly I don't emerge well in this story. So I say to the guy, I said, look, I'm very sorry about this. I'm from the south. I can't really understand what you're saying,
right,
or where we're going. And I wonder if I gave you 20 quid, you would talk in a southern accent so that we could have a proper conversation. Anyway, at which point he then jammed the brakes on, and he said, "You can fucking get out."
You understood that bit.
Yeah. At which point Nick said, "Look, ignore my friend, and if we could just go on in peace, that would be helpful." No, that was a wake up call.
Was that the Pulse station? Was it Pulse or something like that?
I don't know what it was. It didn't do any good. It was.
There's a great story that well, you could probably tell it better than me.
No, I doubt it.
Where there was this was the sort of the former Talk Sport kind of network of stations up and down the country, or mostly in the north. And there was one in Swansea.
There was one in Bradford.
Was it? Yeah, it was a Bradford. Yeah. And there was there not some kind of a riot going on or something like that? And there was the Bradford station had a mascot, right, which I believe was a bird. And Kelvin had this idea that they would send the mascot from the radio station out to the riots, and it would be the Bradford Bird of Peace. Which would bring, and it was basically a guy dressed in a bird's outfit, you know. Isn't that true?
He ends up being beaten up by the rioters.
Yeah,
and
so
then,
the Bradford Bird of
then
Peace.
threatening to sue us.
Yeah, the Bradford Bird of Peace got its head kicked in by the rioters, unfortunately, in Bradford, so it doesn't work out too well.
Well, that seems pretty much par for the course, really, doesn't it? You know, we're victims, and if you don't believe we're victims, we'll kill you.
Yes, right.
And that's the kind of mindset we're dealing with, and as much as anything, this is just completely anti-British. There's never been a time in our history where we killed people because of their race or their ethnicity or their religion or their ethno. And that's the situation we're in now, because we've imported a Middle Eastern, not only a Middle Eastern mentality, but a Middle Eastern aesthetic as well. If you look through, if you walk through some of our cities, they look more like a Middle Eastern city than they do a British city.
Yeah.
This is really sad because it isn't just aesthetic, it brings all the other stuff with it. And ultimately, we've saddled ourselves with so many problems because of mass immigration, Islamism, and identity politics. Those are the kind of three evils that we need to deal with. And if you have accelerated mass immigration, profound change at such an accelerated rate, you cannot deal with it because it's massive, it's deep, it's societal, it's cultural, and you need time to ask the right questions, let alone consider the answers. And it's only on shows like this and certain other channels that we can have open conversations, and we can say, well, actually, the problem here is the perpetrators, and who are the perpetrators? We ask those questions and answer them, but in the public square, Mike, we can't at the moment. You ask those questions on the BBC and they'll blame Nigel Farage, or they'll blame the far right. You know, it's this kind of dissonance, this kind of inability to face the truth. I mean, I'll just give you a quick example. I know I'm going on about this, but I feel so strongly about it. I was debating some stupid woman, some lefty woman on well, you know, that's putting it politely. Yeah. And I was saying, well, you know, we never voted for mass immigration. It's terrible. It's challenging who and what we are, and it's putting women and children in danger. And she said, but who's going to pick the fruit in the fields? We need immigrants, you know. And that was her reason.
That was it, right?
I thought she was going, who's going to pick the cotton at one minute? But this is the stupid, you know, who's going to look after my children? Who's going to make my coffee? Who's going to clean my house? So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is they just want to destroy our country, and they just want to destroy our society. So it's very worrying. And we're getting to the stage now where, you know, the been treason.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a story from, I think it was last year in Sheffield, where it was reported that there was a big punch-up in the street, between sort of two gangs of people, and it turned out they were both gangs of Eritreans.
Right.
And there was one lot who were pro the government and another lot who were anti the government in Eritrea, by the way, not in Sheffield, fighting on the streets of Sheffield. And there's about 100 of them. And
what about the fighting on the streets of Leicester?
Yeah.
Right, where two different religions decided no basis or no basis with the UK at all, decided to slug it out in the most serious violent confrontation. We have enough scum in our own country. We don't need to import it and give them free housing and actually telling them, actually play your cards right, and in 5 or 10 years' time, you can become a citizen and start voting for us. I don't want that world.
I mean, one of the things, some research has just come out that you might have seen it and viewers might have seen it, but over the next 10 years, we are going to get about 7.3 million people coming.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Now there are about, I think 5 million are going to leave, but that means a change in the makeup of the going to be massively significant. But it still means what, 2.5 million people extra in this country, and what's that? About 4 Manchesters. We cannot cope, right? No. So that housing, education, welfare, and most of them will be on welfare. We simply cannot cope. And I've said this before, you will agree with this, I think the two of you. I'm a taxpayer. I can't pay for these people. I literally cannot pay for these people. And it's not fair and it's not right that the government and the powers that be should expect.
No, absolutely right. Philip, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Philip Kisley there, talking, I think, for an awful lot of people. Because the thing is, it's more than...
Can I just ask a quick question about Philip?
Yeah.
What is Philip's background?
He's a philosopher. I think he's a philosophy professor, I think.
Oh, right. What, at a university?
I think so, yeah.
Well, and we should doff our hat to that university, wherever that is, because normally a view that is not let's have open borders, or let's have a 2-day week, or have 3,000 kids and just send us the bill, would normally get you barred from...
well, I don't want to... it says cultural historian, academic, author and political commentator, so maybe he's no longer... Right. It's a senior fellow in the New Culture Forum, so he may not be at university anymore, but he certainly was. And he's a very highly educated academic.
Well, that's certainly unusual to have anybody highly educated on your show, though.
It's very unusual, because normally you don't need an education. You get an education when you come on the show. That's why people come on.
I become a PhD at the Mike Graham Academia.
Well, it's the home of common sense, you see. It's the real home of common sense.
Yes, that's right. There aren't many people who think like us, so we're going to have to form a circle.
We will. And of course, the other thing about common sense is that you don't, as I say, some people are overeducated. My father used to have a phrase for people like that. He was like, he's been educated beyond his own intelligence. And a lot of these people end up in politics, right? Because they can talk a good game, but they don't actually know anything. And I think that's what we suffer from. We've got this kind of managerial class of politicians who don't know anything about real world life.
But what about if you... Right, supposing you're somebody who's gone through the trade union or the council. Right, councillors. Councillor is often a stepping stone towards ending an MP. In fact, I know one, right? I know him because I used to play tennis with him. Right, and he took a run at my ex-wife as well.
Did he?
Which I encouraged, actually.
Yeah, excellent.
But no,
he's got no taste then.
Well, actually, no, good-looking woman, right? I'm very. But anyway, at least she had the brains to bat him away, right?
Yeah.
But absolutely incredible.
Shocking.
So, my local council, Elmbridge Council, right? Biggest collection of rather nasty thickos you could ever hope to meet. So it's basically run by Lib Dems and independents. Now, independents are actually Labour supporters and probably Green supporters, but because Elmbridge is doing quite nicely, thank you very much, they couldn't possibly get elected.
So they can't identify as
Labour. They call themselves independents. Right. They're not independent, right? They're basically leftists. Anyway, they've just... Once every few years, they have a thing called an election.
Yeah.
That's the only thing the council has to focus on.
Yeah.
They've just sent out a note saying, we're most terribly sorry, we buggered this up.
Right.
We have said that you can have 2 votes on the actual ballot, right? There's 11 standing or something. and you can have 2 votes on that. But actually, on the actual envelope, it says you can only have 1 vote.
How can you have 2 votes?
I don't know. Actually, a good point. I think it may be connected with Surrey, East Surrey coming up or whatever. I'm not quite sure. You know, they put out a note. They've only got one thing to focus on. Year after year, after every 5 years, they can't even get that right. How mad is that, right? Honestly, I despair of it. And if they can't even get an election right, what chance have we with things like roads or education or actually getting your bins killing? I mean, they now basically say the reason we exist is 2 things. One, to give a pension to people who would normally be unemployable.
Yeah.
And secondly, to collect your rubbish, right? Could we not arrange that to do that?
They've also made far more complicated than it needs to be, because you now have to put all sorts of things in all sorts of different containers. I mean, this new rollout that the whole country's now got of putting your food in a food recyclable bucket, right? Which is the stupidest idea anybody's ever had, because all you're going to do is get rats and rodents and all manner of ghastly creatures.
But we solved that by having one of those things with in the kitchen where you can crunch it all up yourself.
Yeah,
so that's my advice.
Probably bad for the environment, though. So you probably have that ban. Miliband will get you.
No,
Won't be allowed to.
I don't think so. I think we imported it from America. I think it's been around for about 50 years.
It has, but it doesn't mean that it's sound for the environment, though, does it? I mean, it's probably really bad for the environment. In which case, you won't be going the way of your tumble dryer. What
that tumble dryer will be used for in the future is putting your food into it in order to masticate it up.
Absolutely.
And that may be what happens to tumble dryers.
Well, just cut out the middleman and just take the food and put it straight in the bin and don't bother eating it, you know? I mean,
we can all lose a load of weight like
absolutely.
that.
Just buy the food and stick it in the bin.
And the other thing is to get Miliband and put him in the tumble dryer.
That would be good.
Right? Big face of him going round and round. That's an idea for your viewers, right? To put together some AI of a tumble dryer with Miliband's face going round and round and round like that.
Yeah, we could probably do that. I can imagine we could cook that up any second now. Now, I think William Clouston is here. Is that right, Charlotte? He is. William Clouston, who's the leader of the SDP. This will be right up your street, Kelvin, because they're just unveiling a new policy this morning to call for an end to the entitlement state.
Oh, right. I enjoy that.
And a new era of public investment. William, very good morning to you, sir.
Hi, Mike. Hi,
very good to see you. We've been talking, funnily enough, about the entitlement state this morning because of the numbers of people who now seek to work to live in this country without doing any work whatsoever, which seems to be growing. There was a question at PMQs this week from Kemi Badenoch, who said to Keir Starmer, who of course refused to answer it, do you have any idea how many more people are on universal credit since you got into power? And the number apparently is 1.5 million.
Yeah.
I mean, shocking.
No, it's a major problem, Mike. I mean, we actually launched our new green paper, the investment state, yesterday at Westminster, and it's a great bit of work. And can you allow me to do a quick history lesson?
Yes.
Basically, the level of government expending, the amount of government expenditure as a percentage of GDP has not.
Oops, where's he gone? Oh, he's disappeared.
Well, you know what that is? That Starmer has heard that a rather large intelligent bucket has just about fallen on him, and he has turned to MI5. He said, pull the plug on that.
Can you pull the plug on that? Yeah.
I'm not watching any more of that Mike Graham stuff. It's likely to influence people's views.
Yeah, it is absolutely extraordinary, though, isn't it? That 1.5 million more people are now claiming universal credit.
Right. So we have to deal with that. And that is why I honestly would also say, now Starmer would say, look, I'm trying to get into number 10, not trying to get thrown out of it.
Right.
I would say that council tenants have to pay what they can afford. So I would like him to say, it's totally ridiculous. If you were earning a lot of money, why should I continue to subsidise you when my own mortgage is heading up that way?
Yeah.
Why is it that yours stays still, you earn more money, and me, it doesn't stay still, it heads up, and actually I am paying more tax, right? How can that be fair? And so social housing, council housing, has to be addressed on the basis of can you afford it? Because even if you raised it by 20 or 30%, it would still be a third of what you would pay on the private side of landlording. Yeah. And so I am so, and yet nobody deals with this. Why? Because they say X million people live there and they may not vote for me. I'd say, fine, don't vote for me because there are another 30 million who would vote for the fairness of that argument. And let's just see it. After all, if Thatcher took that view, nothing would have been achieved in the 80s at all. And we would still be lying on the flat of our back as we're heading towards it right now, had it not been for a Thatcher-type thought process being deployed.
The problem, of course, is that now it's worse than it's ever been, because you've now got people coming into the country from elsewhere who have been given priority for council houses, and they're never going to be able to pay for them. You know, so they're stuck there for the rest of their lives, getting it actually not just cheap, but getting it paid for by us, by the taxpayer. So not only am I paying for my own place, I'm paying for his as well.
Yeah.
Which is the crazy bit, right?
Yeah. He comes from the Democratic Congo.
Yeah.
Well, good, but why am I funding it?
Yeah, and he's even got a tumble dryer that I've paid for as well, by the looks of it, probably too. William Clouston, I think, is back. William, sorry about that. Just as you started
I don't know what happened there. I don't know how
Starmer
far
pulled the plug.
Yeah, in the history lesson. But basically, the upshot is, Michael, we used to spend about the same amount of money on public investment, which is, power stations, roads, railways, etc., and housing, as we did on entitlements. And what's happened since 1975 is that entitlements have gone up, ballooned right up to over 10% of GDP, and public investment has collapsed to 1.7%.
Wow.
And all the paper basically is saying that, you've cannibalized public investment. You've instead of investing money, you're spending it on direct cash transfers. And what we need to do is correct that.
So how do you correct it, though?
Well, you can't do it overnight, but far too many citizens are now dependent on state handouts.
Yeah.
So let's look at a very, very good example. I mean, everyone knows about disability benefit and people in their 20s going out of the workforce. And I think I'm going to say right now that the government's doing the very worst thing. I mean, a lot of this goes back to 2017, when mental health was treated as the same as physical health. So if someone was actually physically disabled, couldn't get out of the house, obviously they're on disability benefit. But you've widened that now to people with mental health issues, and it's been disastrous. But the very worst thing you can do for someone in their 20s who's got depression or anxiety is to isolate them and put them on benefits. You've got to get them to turn up and actually improve their mental health. But a very good example is housing, Mike.
Yeah.
So in the 80s, we started paying housing benefit, and we stopped building homes. The public sector, the old council house program was basically snuffed out. And now we spend 37 billion a year on housing benefit. That's paying people's rents, Mike. That's paying people's rents.
37
and we
billion.
spend less than half of that
Yeah.
building homes. If you spent 37 billion pounds building homes, you could house permanently over 400,000 people.
Yeah.
So the cost, honestly, Mike, the cost of pursuing this entitlement state approach and crushing investment has been colossal, and the country's productivity has paid a big price. We put an energy paper out. We stopped investing in real energy. So you subsidise, you prioritise a ludicrous renewable energy program, which is unreliable. And the state isn't doing what it should do, which is build nuclear power stations and get proper baseload.
Yeah, that's also most of that 37 billion presumably is going of private landlords.
About 35% of it is. A lot of it actually is recycled into the public sector. But either way, Mike, it's what you're doing is you're prioritising short-termism and instant gratification. Obviously, it's nice for a politician to say, "I'm going to pay your rent." But you're not. What you're doing is you're treating the symptom of the problem, and in treating the symptom, you're actually making a cause. You're causing the problem. The cause is that you're not building any housing, and it's just colossal. So honestly, when you look at the figures, there's a table in the white paper that we produced, Table 4, I think it is, which just shows the rate of public expenditure on investment and the rate of public expenditure on entitlements. And the curves just go in an opposite direction. And it's just astounding. I think there are many causes of this. I mean, the biggest problem is just weakness and short-termism among the political class. They're keener on buying votes than they are investing in the national interest.
Yeah, so when does that, how would you start the process to be reversed then?
You have to do it. You can't do it overnight. What you have to do is taper it off. So we've proposed a long 10-year taper. So basically benefits in the very big categories would just get tapered off very, very gradually. And you've got to say, you know, on housing, every single year that you start building homes, you start correcting the problem. So, you know, it's not, I mean, it will be, I'm afraid I'm going to have to be honest, it will hurt. I mean, an adaptation, they've built up so many problems in this approach that you've got to address it. I mean, and again, people will say, you know, some people on the progressive left will say, oh, well, we'll just borrow more money. And I'm saying you can't borrow any more money. Public debt is at a 50-year record high. The 10-year gilt is over 5% now, and probably will go higher. It's just not viable to borrow to invest in this way, and you can't, you can't tax anymore. The tax burden on the economy is colossal. We know what Reeves has done. She's come in and claimed a black hole, and she's put up taxes to pay off public sector unions. But that is not helpful. It's not, it's not going to get productivity or production up in the private sector. And ultimately, all of public spending depends on the quality of the tax base. If you tax the British people anymore and industry anymore, you will destroy the tax base. So you've got to take the hard decision, I'm afraid, and taper off some of these entitlements. And I'd be happy at a start, Mike, if the Department of Work and Pensions actually had a budget. They don't.
That's a good question here. Name the three things, right? You're Prime Minister now. You walk in, you're number 10. Oh, yeah, great day from Francis of Assisi and all that. And then you say, right, we're going to do A, B, and C, and we're starting now. What would they be?
Well, the first thing I would do is institute a proper national house building program and get the state back into house building. There are two real causes of the housing crisis, and the housing crisis is the biggest domestic macroeconomic crisis we have. Young people, if they get a job in London, and 40% of graduate jobs are in London, spend about half their money on paying rent. It was not surprising if it consumes that much of your household budget. There's not much else for anything else.
All right, 2 and 3. What would they be?
2 and 3, you've got to rebuild grid energy. So you've got to. The key thing is, I mean, literally now, Kelvin, plants producing fertilizer or chemicals, bulk chemicals on Teesside, are going out of business because grid energy is too expensive. So you've got to, we invented nuclear power in this country, civil nuclear power, and you've got to get behind that. I'd shift away from net zero. I'd give any license that the oil and gas industry wants in Rosebank and in the North Sea. About half of our trade deficit, Kelvin, is consumed with importing energy. So that is ludicrous.
Okay, number 3.
You've got to build the defence industries up again. I mean, one of the things that people don't realise is that there will be no Britain if you don't defend it. And the parlous state, I mean, this is again, it's been something that the successive governments have been in total denial about. I would also tilt away from all of our major defence procurements being interlinked with the American architecture. I think we've got to be much more autarkic about it. Look at what we need to defend these islands. And put that as a priority. So there's no getting away from it. And the Labour talk the talk on this, but they're not actually moving on it.
No, exactly right. Well, it's going to be an interesting paper. Where can people see it, William, if they want
they go to sdp.org.uk, look at publications, it's on there. It's a brilliant bit of work, 17,000 words. And as I say, the policy team that produce it, it's very unfettered. The gloves are off, so we don't pull any punches on this.
Okay, good one. William, thanks very much indeed. William Clouston there from the SDP, Social Democrat Party, talking about a plan to
Can I ask about that? Would you really call it the SDP? Honestly, I'm old enough to remember the SDP, which was David Owen.
It was Gang of Four.
The whole 9 yards. And at one stage, by the way, had almost 30% in polling.
Yeah, it was David Steele, wasn't it? David Owen.
Yeah.
What's the face? The woman. What was her name? Shirley
Williams.
Shirley Williams.
Professor Shirley Williams.
I interviewed her once. She was really interesting, actually.
Oh, yeah.
I liked
she's a very bright lady,
very
wasn't
clever,
she? Very clever lady.
And then the one guy that everybody forgets, whose name escapes me. But yeah, I mean, I've had that conversation actually with William Clouston, because I said, do you not feel as though you're kind of harking back because they're not the same. They're a much more right wing offering than that SDP was.
No, I totally get that. That's why if you said SDP to a certain age group, they'd say, "Oh, I'm not going with David Owen, or I'm not going with."
It was a kind of Labour Party offshoot.
Yeah, and so if my first advice would be to change your name and get it to reflect where you actually stand. I mean, those policies there are really conventional centre-right, conservative / reform
where they
policies,
are.
right? And therefore, their name should reflect it, not reflecting some Labour-Liberal alliance.
Yes. I'm hearing something in my ear, by the way, Charlotte. I don't know whether we're still plugged in with William or whether he's gone or whether we plugged in with somebody else or what's going on. People are still saying there's a bit of an echo. Yes. But we're not sure what's going on with the sound today. It doesn't seem to be as perfect as it normally is. But there's always one gremlin or another. We started the show the other day with an empty chair. I was actually sitting here, and as the show page came up, it was just my jacket on the back of the chair. People thought I was wearing some kind of invisibility cloak. Well, there was some kind of delay on the camera that we couldn't understand.
What do you mean? And you were the chair was there, but you weren't.
I was actually sitting here, and the camera was on me, but it wasn't showing a live picture. And so these are the things that you encounter when you're doing these kind of independent type shows. I mean, we used to have problems.
Well, actually, having had a look at you, I would have thought the viewers would be delighted the fact that your face wasn't on there, and it would have actually led to a boost in the audience.
He can't help himself. Actually, people thought it was quite funny. I mean, the thing that's great about this show is that whenever we do have little glitches and things that go wrong, they actually don't mind.
Whereas, you're quite right. So if you were making the mistake of actually watching the BBC or something like that, and something happened, everybody would be calling up and saying, this. Right. But the reason is, of course, that on the BBC or ITV or something, you're paying for it, whereas here you're doing this out of your love for the viewer.
Indeed, absolutely, and I'm not asking. I mean, some people do pay some money to watch it because they don't like the ads, so they can pay to be on YouTube Premium or they can pay to be on the Substack, and that's entirely their choice. But you don't have to, and you're not paying a license fee. I, by the way, came up with this idea that I would issue a license. And tell people that they can.
That is a good idea.
They can get rid of the BBC license because mine will be a lot cheaper, a lot more interesting, and far more entertaining.
Right. So I'm now the Prime Minister, right? So I do a number of things. First off, so the first 100 days, the first thing I announce is that the BBC is going to subscription.
Yeah.
If you want to pay for it, be my guest. There's some very good value. I would pay for the audio.
Yeah.
Okay, without a shadow of a doubt. Right. I've been listening to the Today programme for 1,000 years. I'm not giving it up. I like being annoyed first thing in the morning, right? It saves me having a row with the wife. I can have a row with the radio. Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. And that would be it. So I would urge Nigel Farage, who's more likely to be in the mix than anybody else I can see out there at the moment, right? I would urge him to adopt that, to say, we'll make it a choice for you. We'll make it a choice, at which point a number of things will happen. First of all, their revenues will go up.
Yeah.
Secondly, the number of employees would come charging down by probably about half.
Down. They're dumping the news channel, aren't they? And whenever you've ever watched that news channel, right, you can tell me this, because you never see the same person on it twice. They pull these people out of Washington. Who's this character? And he's apparently been working in Washington for about 20 years, right? He only gets on the TV once a week. And you just don't know who they all are. But I mean, I tell you what I heard the other day, which you might have heard as well. But I'm told ITV are now in so much trouble that their revenues are down by about 50%, their audiences are down by about 40%, and they're about to be bought, apparently, I'm told, by Comcast over in America.
Well, Comcast are certainly going to buy the networks.
Yeah.
Right. They must be.
That's what I'm hearing.
Well, they must be start raving mad. I can't understand why they do that. The other half of it is being bought by Sky, or is it being bought by Sky?
Well, but that's the same organisation.
Yeah,
Comcast owns Sky.
Okay, right. So, Sky are buying the production side of it,
right.
As far as I know.
But that's the expensive bit.
Yeah.
Because that's the bit they need to get rid of. Because, I mean, one of the reasons the talk failed was because they spent so much money on the production. Because they hired all these people from ITV who were paid.
Can I just correct you?
Can I correct you? Right.
Right. Yeah. The reason that talk failed is because they have a hopeless management, right? And,
I thought you were going to insult me again there. So it's my fault. No, but they spent too much money hiring all these like cameramen, sound guys. I told you the story of my final show on the evening variety, where they said, "Oh, some of the boys would like to come out and have a picture." It's the last show. Went fine. And about 30 people appeared out of the gallery, and I'm going, "Sorry, I never met any of them."
That was your audience.
That was the audience, in fact. Yeah, absolutely right. Quite right. And listen, it was the only place that I ever had an audience that went down. That was how bad it was.
Really? What do you mean? As the number of production went up, the audience.
I actually got to a point where I said to myself, "Do you know what? These people are now ruining my reputation." Because my reputation for putting shows up was very good. I had the highest rated overnight show at TalkSport ever, right? 1 million people watching it a week online. And every show I ever did there went up, apart from the one in the evening for Talk TV.
Can I correct you about one area of where you got a bit carried away? You didn't have a reputation. Okay.
Well, that's possibly
Or the
true.
reputation you did have was not one that you'd like to boast about, right? Except at the Licensed Victualers Association.
Listen, I've put plenty of money in plenty of people's pockets over the years. Let's put it that way.
Well, one of the reasons that I've noticed round at Vauxhall that the bars appear to have extra money to do the place up.
Vauxhall. I don't know why he keeps mentioning Vauxhall, because that's not where we are. Oh, right. Anyway, let's talk to. We've got a new guest, haven't we? Yes. This is a man I think who's got something to do with keeping Britain tidy. Is that right? Clean Up Britain. Yeah. Okay. Well, I've never heard of Clean Up Britain, so let's find out who he is and what he's selling. John from Clean Up Britain. John, very good morning to you. Why do we only know you as John? You've only got one name. Eh?
I don't know. I've actually got a second name. It's Reid, but Reid. You got the first one right. Anyway.
Oh, you share it with that former Labour cabinet minister, John Reid. You remember him?
Except he spelled it R-E-I-D. I spell it as in reading the book.
Reid. Oh, right. I say. Well, good. Well, tell us a bit about Clean Up Britain. What's that all about?
Well, very sadly, Mike. We live in the most filthy, littered country in the Western world. And,
we do.
It is really, really, really sad to say. And basically, I've been away in Africa, came back in 2010, and I just suddenly realised actually how filthy Britain is. So I just started cleaning up Britain then, really, and what it's all about is about behaviour change, trying to actually permanently clean up this country and attack the sort of sources of why it is so filthy. Which, first and foremost, obviously, is because there are 20-odd million people admitted to dropping litter in Britain. But also the system behind that, from local and central government, is totally dysfunctional, needs to change, and that's really what we're trying to do. It does what it says on the tin.
Okay. It's not getting any cleaner, though, is it? I mean, can you point to anywhere where it's getting cleaner?
No, it's not getting particularly cleaner. It's getting worse in many, many respects, which you might say is an indictment on us. But we're looking for long-term systemic change in this country, really. And unfortunately, what that means is upsetting some of the big companies because they're part of the problem. So we're a voluntary campaign, national campaign, and it's desperately needed, absolutely desperately needed, because so many parts of the country, virtually all of them, are filthy. Where you're in London, it's not too bad, but that's of course because Kensington, Chelsea, and Westminster Council are trying to pretend that that's what Britain's like when it's not.
Yeah, and is it better in London because there's more bins, or there's more? Because I don't think it's because there's more tidy people, surely.
It's not. Those two councils spend an absolute fortune cleaning it up.
Right.
But if you go elsewhere, and also with all due respect to you and being in central London, central London is not indicative anyway of the rest of the country. It's a million miles away. So you go around the rest of the country. 2023, 2024, I went to every single city in Britain, from Inverness in the north to Truro in the south. And I've got over 5,000 videos and 10,000 photographs on my phone here of what I chronicled. And it's just very, very sad. The country's absolutely filthy. It's run down, rancid. And it's a very, very sad reflection on what otherwise, as you well know, is a beautiful country.
Yeah. And you also get an awful lot more fly tipping now, don't you, than you used to get. And a lot of people tell me that's partly because of the way that local councils are now running the tips, and they're not running them properly, and you have to book to go there and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, that is true. But at the end of the day, you've got to say those people, they shouldn't be fly tipping, full stop. I mean, you can make excuses for anybody. But at the end of the day, that's a criminal offence. People shouldn't be doing it. Yeah, the councils are not the smartest in the world, most of them, to be frank, and don't necessarily run them in a way that's making it easy for their local residents to use. And this year, you know, last year, 1.2 million fly tips in Britain, which is a record number. And those are just the ones we know about. Just the ones. The true figure is more like 4 to 5 million.
Yeah, and so what's the answer?
Well, it's a very, very complicated problem, really. But I mean, there's a number of things. First of all, we need a really national behavioural change campaign here, which will cost 30 or 40 million pounds a year to run over 10 years. There is actually a source of finance available for that, which most politicians don't even realise about. But anyway, there is. That's the sort of thing we need to actually start changing some people's behavior. But on top of that, you know, it's the same thing in this country. You know what it's like. We're absolutely appalling at so many things. And one of the things we're appalling at is enforcing the law. So it's many counties, many councils around the country don't enforce the law against littering. So although it's a criminal offence, it's unpunishable, and people know that. There's no consequences. You live in a country where the rule of law is not enforced, then it ceases to become important. It ceases to become legitimate, and people don't care. So that needs to change. We need to start getting serious about offences. So for fly tipping, you know, the average fine for fly tipping is about £1,100. That's just not a deterrent. If I'm a fly tipper, I can earn £1,100 by lunchtime today. So there needs to be serious. And the Tories were appalling at this, I have to say, and Labour have been equally bad. But we need to start enforcing the law, and we need to start putting real jeopardy against people who start fly tipping. And that means we're just about to launch our anti-fly tipping manifesto, an action plan, and we're saying that any fly tip, any fly tip whatsoever, a fridge or a mattress, you get an instant £5,000 fine, £5,000 fine, and on top of that, you have your licence endorsed on your driving licence, 6 points. But at the bigger end of the scale, you know, people need to be getting fines of more like £20,000-25,000 minimum, and their licences revoked for a year. Only then are we going to start getting people to start thinking, God, there is actually some real jeopardy in actually committing this crime. I'll do something else because it's too risky.
Yeah, indeed. John, good to see you. Thanks very much indeed. John Reid from Clean Up Britain. It is a kind of British disease, isn't it? You go to different countries around the world and they never seem to be as dirty as we do.
And, you know, you go along reasonable roads outside London, and you see rubbish, or you see stuff that must have been thrown out of
a car. Yeah, window. I see people doing it. You see people chucking stuff out of cars all the time.
Yeah,
shocking.
So there's no, I do agree with the guy there that in fact we need to change an atmosphere about rubbish, but it goes to having a pride in your country. And could it be that if you've come from somewhere else? Look, I'm not actually blaming the migrant sector. No. I have no evidence that they're any worse than the indigenous population. No. But there is definitely an education aspect. And the other aspect is this. The fly tippers themselves, I suspect, are clever commercial business people. And what they're doing is that they're not prepared to pay, which is completely wrong. They're not prepared to pay to have their stuff, their fly tipping dealt with properly through a commercial aspect when they think they can just dump it and save themselves 400 quid.
Yeah.
Actually, I agree with that guy. If we had fines and actually then said, actually, you have 45 days to do it, you pay that money, by the way, or you're going to jail, right? And then you're not going to be allowed to trade again, right? Perhaps there has to be some peril for people who do something which they know is illegal.
Yeah.
People don't.
Otherwise, because if the law doesn't really punish anyone, people just don't pay any attention to it.
Which is where we are with shoplifting.
Yeah.
So there's
what about Keir Starmer and his crackdown, though? Didn't he announce a crackdown this week? He's going to crack down on shoplifting. What's he going to
do? Yes, and actually, the bad publicity in relation to the crackdown is I saw that another lady got dismissed for not following Morrison's deter, not detain policy, right? Honestly, are they really determined to follow this through? What they're scared about, I suspect, is that if the shoplifter had a knife and they then attacked the staff, that they end up being sued if they didn't have this policy. I'm sure that's some of the reason. At the same time, I don't want to see perfectly people who are probably at the end of their piece of string watching criminals getting away with, quotes, free food and thinking, do you know what? I don't want to sit here any longer and watch these people just doing this to me and to my employees and to the society. I'm going to act against it. And what's happened? Oh, you've been fired, right? After 30 odd years. Get real, right? So anyway, Morrison, of course, are doing very poorly, okay? Now, supposing you had a different attitude, I'm not sure what it is, but you have security people who deal with this kind of stuff, right? And said, come to Morrison's, we're taking on the shoplifters, right? Would that do better than Morrison's, who are, at the moment are in a degree of trouble? And the only thing that I enjoy about that is it's owned by private equity who actually pile the company with debt, which is the reason why they don't then invest in their business and don't invest in cutting prices, and therefore the customer stays away. So private equity, get out. You're in the wrong business.
I don't know how you did this, but as you were speaking there, I'm just watching the YouTube feed and talking about Morrison's, an ad came up for Asda. That's quite good. That's quite a good trick. That
have a go with that.
Good trick.
I quite like their executive chairman.
We're already making more money than we were a minute ago, which is great. Let's talk now, I think, to Robert Jobson.
Robert Jobson.
Robert Jobson is here, a man that we both know well. Is he still in Washington? Because that's where he was. Hello, Robert.
Yeah, I'm still in Washington now.
Yeah, good man. Now, people keep telling me that we've got some terrible echo going on.
Dreadful echo it is. It's all right because it meant I couldn't hear Kelvin waffling on about.
There's always an upside. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, a pretty successful trip for King Charles, you might say.
Successful for British government, successful for Keir Starmer, and successful for Charles. This thing keeps wiggling about. I don't know what's going on. It's crap, isn't it? Successful for Charles, successful for the government. Few jokes written by somebody else went down well. But look, I still think that Trump is pretty angry with Starmer. I don't think that it's solved that many problems. The Irish whiskey trade's done pretty well. And got a deal, and the Scottish whiskey trade's done pretty well, got a deal on tariffs, etc. But look, I'm not so convinced. I mean, I was at the White House yesterday. Yesterday. And I'm still not convinced that the British relationship with America is as strong as the papers are trying to make out. If you read the Sun and the Mail, it's as if we're just back. It's D-Day all over again. It isn't. I mean, Trump just looks at the bottom line most of the time, and quite rightly.
Yeah. Well, Trump loves a royal, doesn't he? He loves a royal visit. He loves the king. Makes him feel
he loves
like
money. He loves money, Mike. He doesn't love the royals. I mean, at the end of the day, his mum was Scottish, and he's got a bit of an affection for the royal family. But we should not be so naive as to think he gives a damn about anything else apart from the success for America and money.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as the royals are concerned, or as far as the Buckingham Palace is concerned, would they consider this to have been a successful trip? Because there were some people who said he shouldn't go. It's not the right time.
I didn't think he should have gone after Trump insulted our armed forces. I mean, I thought that was appalling. But it's gone well. Let's be honest. In terms of bangs to your buck and what you're going to get for it, it's gone well. And I think that the palace. Charles did his job, and I think he did it well. He always does, actually. I'm pretty much in favour of him. But this is because Starmer hasn't really been doing his job.
Right.
Yvette Cooper was here, but you wouldn't even known Yvette Cooper was here. The foreign secretary. So
you wouldn't know
Yvette Cooper.
You wouldn't know Yvette Cooper's ever anywhere. She hardly ever speaks. And when she does speak, she never says anything important, and she just doesn't have any presence, really. It's almost like
she's like the absentee school governor.
But, do you remember?
I just think that we mustn't get carried away because got all these blokes in grey suits and all these foreign office types all jumping up and down how wonderful they've done, and it's all back to empire and blighty where it's like D-Day all again according to them. But it isn't. We live in a completely different world now. Trump I think he was impressed with the bell he got from HMS Trump and all this sort of stuff. But I don't think it's going to impact his decision making.
No, I don't think it is either, because he flits around, doesn't he? He's friends with Britain one day, the next day he's not. In fact, next week, if Starmer says something stupid, he might pull the tax and tariffs back on the whiskey. You never really know, do you? And that is part of the problem. But how was it viewed in the States by the media there? Because we were told at the beginning they weren't getting quite as excited as we were, if you like.
Yeah, they were pretty excited, but it would have been a lot better if it was William and Kate. Let's be honest. They were quite excited. I think they had a bit of affection for the king. There was a historic sense to it. There was him being his visit, but certainly if it had been William and Kate, it would have been all bells and whistles.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. And they're going later on for the World Cup, I think, aren't they?
Not sure Kate is. I'm pretty sure that William will go, and he may take George with him. He may take probably just George. But I'm not sure that many Aston Villa players are going to make the England squad. I think it's all going to be basically Chelsea, isn't it? I understand.
I have no idea. I mean, I'm so out of touch with football now.
I don't know. It's going to be the Arsenal. They've got Declan Rice has run himself so far into the ground, he won't be able to make it on the plane, I don't think.
Well, presumably, Arsenal, unfortunately, is suffering from the yoke of Keir Starmer, haven't they? It was Jonah around their neck because he's a big Arsenal supporter ever since he started showing.
I think they should send Kelvin in. I think they should send Kelvin in as like the Roy Keane. The Roy Keane voice of reason to get them. See, I mean, he's got me on a diet ever since he fat shamed me in front of my poor son. Who was shocked by your behaviour, by the way. And I said, he was just joking, Charlie. He goes, well, I didn't think it was very funny. I said, well, that's because he's old and you're young.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this is the thing.
Can I just take up the point? The thing I enjoyed about Charles was the gags. Okay, he would come on and actually done a kind of a straightforward collection of either anti-French, anti-German, pro-US gag. I loved all that. And I actually loved the first half of his major speech. But directly Starmer started getting his views in he talked about growth in the speech. That was ludicrous. He started talking about NATO. He started talking about that. Immediately he started the politics. This is what we have a constitutional monarchy. I do understand that. Directly, Starmer started putting his inky fingers into it. This thing went totally downhill. If he do you know what would have been fantastic? Is actually if Charles had actually scrapped all that and said, do you know what? The country is completely up shit creek.
Yeah,
right? There is no growth. Right? we need to reduce taxation.
Yeah,
and basically we need to turn the boats back. Imagine that. That would have been the greatest crisis.
I didn't quite like that as well. But would have been back to 1936 then, Kelvin, with Edward VIII Prince of Wales going around saying something must be done. I don't think we would have gone to the abdication yet. I think they would read that trap that you were setting them, Kelvin. But no, I thought the jokes were great. Actually, I thought he does deliver them very, very well. But sometimes he doesn't even know he's quite funny. I remember when I interviewed him on a plane coming back from Vanuatu. It was actually, without that interview, I wouldn't have got a book out of it. So it was quite good. But he was very funny about wearing a pair of budgie smugglers, but he didn't actually see the funny side. He doesn't see he's being funny. He's actually a very decent guy. And I thought he did a great job. And probably, well, maybe, I think in a different way, maybe even a better job than the late Queen in terms of the way, at this moment in time, and the way that things have to be done, the shape of the world we live in, I think he did probably a better job than even Queen Elizabeth could have done.
Yeah, the other aspect is the guy has got cancer. I mean, he's got cancer. He's 77,
he
78.
Very well, I thought.
And he turns out he does 4, I would have thought, pretty hectic days. I mean, literally coming off the plane and going and make a major speech in which you drop a clanger in there, right? Then that will be hanging around you for 1,000 years. I thought this kind of energy, right, was an inspiration, especially to the older man, Robert.
I just aspire, boss, to reach your age and have your level of eloquence.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure by the time I'm his age, I won't be making any sense at all, which I know is about feed you another line.
All I would say is that what he does actually do, and I revealed this in one of my books. I'm getting like one of those people that keep plugging their book. But he has spinach soup. He never used to ever eat lunch, which I can't say that it's something I've ever not
Well, at
done.
least somebody's eating lunch, otherwise they'd be
Particularly when the
shutting more
son would
beef
pay the
eaters down, wouldn't
expenses.
they?
It's not something I run away from at lunch. But anyway, he now has spinach soup whenever he can, and that was his. And so it's the sort of Popeye solution. This is what's happened here.
Right, that's
And he will
interesting.
also come off the chemo. He comes off the chemo if he's got a major series of things he's going to have to do, and then he rests up. I mean, this is a man, he's living with cancer, and I know what cancer is, and no, it's not easy. I can't reveal that, of course, but the reality is, he's a man. He's doing his job. He's vowed to do for as long as he can do it, and I thought he did it with aplomb, really. And I think, and let's not underestimate Camilla's role here, because she's a great support act to him, the Queen.
Yeah,
I'm not. I was covering the story for Kelvin when we was editor of a paper that sold over 5 million copies. Can you imagine that? 5 million copies a day, and it was Charles and Diana. There was no real support coming from Diana. And we were just quite happy that Diana was around, because of course she helped sell those 5 million copies.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
I mean, even the Express papers used to sell better when you put Diana on the front, which was extraordinary when you and I were working on that together. You and I have worked on a lot of newspapers together, by the way,
We have, yeah. I mean, the biggest paper I worked on was The Sun, under Kelvin, when he was the boss. And then I worked for Sir Nick Lloyd, who's not very well at the moment. So I did him my best regards. And that was at Express. I worked there for 9 years.
Right.
And I think you were there. Then I think today we shared a little bit of a time.
We did,
there,
yeah. Well, I think when I first met you, you were working for Today. You came to New York when you were just a slip of a lad, I seem to remember.
Yeah, I was sent there. Yeah, I was very much a lot slipper. This is before I was able to dine out at expenses.
Exactly. But it's been a pleasure.
But this is, it was a good, I think that the whole, I mean, what I've noticed, guys, is that, they don't really care too much about the newspapers anymore. It's all about the online, the podcast, everything else. I spoke to Arthur Edwards, who's 85 or wherever he is. He's at last not on this trip, thank goodness for himself. He's out on a walk-in trip with a bunch of some old snappers. And he was saying, I've got really good photos in there. I said, well, I know it's not all about the photos on this one, Arthur. It's different. The man have sent out 5 people, to do their podcast from here. I'm going on the Sun's show, Matt Wilkinson's show, out of Fox in about 3 hours. It's all about that. That's what they think is the future. Maybe they should just get a few stories in the paper.
I agree with that.
That's the old-fashioned thing, right?
No, that is the issue. That is the issue. For instance, the online offering from the Sun is crap with a capital K. I mean, I actually, funnily enough, I think the paper, actually, because it's got no ads and everything's big and bold and everything, it's not too bad, actually. So, but there's no commercial future in print, right? Nobody will buy that because it's just the end. It's just one of those things. It's just like DVDs or whatever.
Yeah.
So I quite understand that. So the online offering, what the online offering should be? Okay, one day I will own it. I have no doubt at all. The minute that Murdoch dies, the Sun will be for sale. I will buy it, I'll put it behind a paywall, and we'll cover every single scandal in the world. And everybody will buy that, will be prepared to buy
Can't you buy the Standard? Well, I'm still on the London Standard. I'm one of the last of the Mohicans. There's about 7 of us left.
It's not even a paper anymore, is it?
Well, no, it is. It comes out on a Thursday, and I've got a piece in actually this Thursday because I'm accredited for this tour, not as a.
Are you getting paid for it?
No, don't be daft. I'm doing it so that I get the accreditation to cover this visit. I work mainly for Good Morning America, ABC. I've got stuff with Australia. So, but my accreditation to cover this visit is down to the Standard. I'm trying to keep it alive. It's
the idea that the future of media rests on Robert Jobson is a shocking thought, isn't it?
Well, it's not actually, though, because I'm going to defend Robert here because, in fact, he's absolutely right. He, because of the various different scoops that he got over the years, is a very well respected royal correspondent and now author.
Well, they were either scoops or they were made up.
The point is that there was a very thin line that we all had to traverse, if you like. And the trick was knowing exactly how far you could go.
What on how far you could make them up?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you have to have a scintilla
I would
of
start
truth.
to
Right.
cry about
I
this,
will
but I
give the
won't.
credit to the royal guys. Remember, they denied every single story about Charles and Diana and the problems and falling down the stairs and bulimia and all that. Every single word turns out not only be true, it was actually nowhere near as bad as the truth really was.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I
they were
would stress there, Kelvin, though, that I did actually win Scoop of the Year with the London Press Club for breaking the story that Charles was to marry Camilla in the London Standard. So
There you go.
the Standard is worth purchasing.
Yeah,
It is worth purchasing.
By the
But
way,
it's not for
I
sale yet,
find
apparently.
it slightly curious that you and I are being lectured by Kelvin Mackenzie about the truth. You know, I mean, the world
Let's
is
just not go
turned
there
on
on
its
that
head
one.
on that
All I
one.
would
I'll tell
say
you
is
what.
that he was a fine editor. And
but
thank
you know,
God
that's
for
the
Tom
first time that's
Petrie.
ever been
And thank
said.
God for Tom Petrie. That's all I can say. Because he was the one who
There's a
really
very
ran the
good.
paper.
By the way, I do the diary in the Spectator today.
Oh, do you? Okay.
You want to read it because I pour a rather large bucket on some of the incumbents that have driven News UK to the wall, and this is
getting passed around.
So this has led to led to my learned friends getting involved.
Oh, again?
Yeah.
Oh, not again. Oh, not again, Kelvin.
There's a young Angus
not
been
again.
I mean, I love the idea that just before
On this show, we don't want any learned friends involved. I can
No,
assure
but
you.
it's a fantastic idea, isn't it?
Just paid enough for them in the past 6 months, thanks, you know.
Just as I'm being lowered into the ground, somebody drops a writ on me. You know, that I would consider that to be my life's work had been achieved.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but at that stage, you won't be open for business. That's fine.
No, exactly right. Robert, listen, great to see you. We've got to run.
Good chat.
Enjoy
Good chat,
the rest of the tour, and we will look out for the Standard later on as well.
But more
Robert
important,
Johnson.
look out for houseofthepeople.com because he's gone for nearly 200,000 votes.
Yeah.
He's just sold, Charlie just sold 15% of the company.
Has he?
For about, he's just sold that and they're going great guns. And I think
That's
actually,
fantastic.
I think they should be back. I think at some stage, I've checked on his site now, the voting that's going on where MPs in government at the moment has a gap of 70% with the public. 70%.
Wow. Yeah.
That's huge. I mean, that shows you. And that's with 189,000 votes cast. That's bigger than any poll.
That's brilliant.
That's what I believe.
He's done a brilliant thing.
That's your
Charlie,
boy, isn't
his
it?
son Charlie. Yeah.
Yeah, he's done well. As you called it, House of the Pies. And that's the bit that he got most upset about.
Brilliant. House of the People. Brilliant stuff. Fantastic. Good to see you, Rob. Give it my love. Tell him we'll get him on soon. That's a great idea, by the way. His son.
I remember you interviewed
we
the boy.
launched it here pretty much, you know, because Rob said, "Can you get him on the show?" And so we did. And you know, I'll tell you what happened at the Sun, because he then sold the story to the Sun about how well the story had gone.
Yeah.
Right? We're putting me very much front and centre of this.
And don't tell me they scrapped all that.
They took my name out of it.
Yeah. Well, that's because they're idiots.
Yeah.
What they don't seem to understand is that everybody accepts, whether it's right, left, or centre, that there is a basis for where these interviews come from. You must credit them, right? For instance, the Chelsea Citizen, run by Robbie McGibbon Jr., right, is
it's going really well, though. Isn't it?
Well, it's tough going financially, but journalistically, because that's where his energy and his talent is, right? He breaks a story about somebody mysteriously disappearing out the window, right, and dying. Anyway, that story has gone everywhere. In fact, I think it's massive even today in the Daily Mail. But the trouble is, he broke it. Chelsea Citizen. It's a one-man show. He's literally doing the stuff himself. And his point is, I need crediting because that will help me.
Right.
Actually, it helps journalism because there is no money in journalism, right? Because there is no advertising in old-fashioned this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There is money in what you're doing.
In what we're doing,
reaching a big audience, an unserved audience.
Yeah.
Nobody knew that there was this number of people who would watch something like the Mike Graham show. Actually, funnily enough, when you go home, you close the door behind you, you aren't the same person who has to listen to a load of left-wing nonsense from a cowed management and a cowed and a number of employees. You have your own views, and your views are not represented by mainstream media.
Not at all.
That world is coming to an end, and it deserves to.
Yeah, absolutely right. Kelvin, thank you very much indeed. We're about to invite Nigel Jacklin into your chair, so I'm going to ask you to
time to leave. That's fine.
Which is
I've left you a pie, by the way.
Thank you very much indeed. It's a very
I thought you were
large and heavy bag here full of something very sweet.
I think you were looking a little bit peaky, and it looked as though you were losing weight. So I thought that pie might be.
You're
helpful.
sort of one man nightmare squad for me, because I am trying to lose weight. You keep bringing in these huge pies.
Yeah.
But anyway, there we are. But listen, good to see you.
Okay, man.
Thank you very much indeed. Have a lovely weekend.
And you.
Keep an eye on those councillors down there, because Nigel, we're about to speak to, is actually one of them.
Oh, right.
A councillor from down south, down in Sussex way. Nigel Jacklin. We'll talk to him in a moment. First, should we have some news? Some news with Fiona McLeod. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Fiona McLeod with your news on Friday, 1st May. The terror threat level remains severe after the Golders Green stabbings. 2 Jewish men attacked in what police are treating as terrorism. Keir Starmer turned up for the photo op and got properly heckled because nothing screams strong leadership like a Prime Minister getting told to jog on by his own side. Meanwhile, it's the last PMQs before the locals, and Kemi Badenoch is sharpening her claws. Labour's current governing strategy appears to be hope nobody notices. In other news, the weather, actually nice today. Blue skies, proper warmth, the works. The nation is collectively suspicious. We're all waiting for the freak hailstorm, plague of frogs, or surprise 40% council tax hike to ruin it. Please remember to like and subscribe. See you later, alligators.
Thank you very much indeed, Fiona. We're coming towards the last hour of the show, actually. Bishop Dewar, for those of you who are looking for the Bish, he's going to be back in very shortly. Also, Christian Drogan's going to be here as well from Watchmen. But first off, before we do any of that, Nigel Jacklin is here. Nigel, welcome to the new Mike Graham show. Nigel has been on all sorts of different shows with me. He's been on the nighttime show that I did on Talk. He's been on the daytime show. He's probably been on the breakfast show. So now you're on this show. Are you still a councillor down in Sussex?
Yes.
You are. So are you standing?
Councillor. No, I've chosen not to stand because we've got something else going on. I can't talk about that.
All right. So what are you here to tell me about then?
Why it's worth voting in next Thursday's local elections.
All right.
So, I mean, in London, they are the standard every 4-year elections for boroughs.
Yeah.
Where we are in East Sussex, there are county elections. So what happened was that the Tories voted to not have them,
right,
and Labour agreed.
Because that was the thing that surprised everybody, wasn't it? Because originally, when there was a whole series of counties who were told, actually, you're not going to be able to vote this time around because the council have decided that that we're not ready, or we want to rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic or whatever it is they want to do. Because I still can't get anyone to explain what it is that they want to do. To sort of codify and to streamline and to kind of change the way that they run local government, because I even had what's his name, Professor Curtis on, John Curtis, from Strathclyde University, who's the world's most expert cephalogist, and even he couldn't explain what they were trying to do. So then suddenly Labour decided to order them to happen.
So there's 2 bits to it. There's devolution, which is there's East Sussex, West Sussex, and Brighton.
Yeah,
and the plan is that we will have a mayor whom we will elect, and ostensibly it's about devolving power down.
Right.
But in fact, actually what it is more a concentration of power. So the government will be able to have, let's say, 20 mayors around the country who they can fit in one room and agree everything.
Right.
And I think they...
So that mayor of sort of the...
Sussex.
The 2 Sussexes and Brighton would be the mayor of all of that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Okay. And in theory, that's easier to, let's say, control than a whole bunch of little mayors, as it were.
Yeah.
So that's one bit. And then the other bit is that they will merge. So where we are, we have Rother District Council who look after bins. And actually, there's something to do with policing as well.
Okay.
And shoplifting. And then county that looks after roads and social care. So they will merge.
Right.
And the theory was that we didn't need an election last year because they'll merge next year.
Right.
And it would be a waste of time. But actually, those of us who want to vote for the people who are going to oversee the changes wanted an election.
Right.
And now we've got one.
Okay. And so is it likely or is it possible that those people who are currently in charge might not be in charge after Thursday then?
Yeah, at the moment where we are, it's not quite a Conservative majority, and that will change.
Right.
Whether Reform will get a majority is a different question.
Right.
And there are independents and even some Labour people.
Okay.
You know, so you never know.
I mean, in terms of the turnout, because local turnout's always pretty bad, isn't it? Are you expecting the turnout to be a bit better this time because of all the publicity around it?
So there are some places where there are more candidates, and that may increase turnout.
Right.
But actually, the turnout thing means that if you bother to vote, your vote has more sway. So therefore, it's worth voting.
Yes, absolutely. But I mean, for all of us who have ever tried to encourage people to go and vote and actually use their vote properly, local elections are by far the hardest ones to get people to go out and vote for, aren't they?
Yeah, and I stood in the general election, and it was pretty clear that most people thought that politicians were a rude word, not a waste of time. To
Exactly.
Put it
Well,
polite.
that is the
They don't
problem. But
know.
of course, sometimes you can your own little kind of life in whichever town or village or city you live in is more likely to be affected by the council that you elect than it is probably by the
you
MP.
can do more. There's more leverage and agency. And in fact, going back to shoplifting, so our Rother Council have this system that they're supposed to encourage shops to use to report crime.
Yeah.
And they weren't getting enough shops in. And we had a meeting with the MP and everybody. And quite a lot of these are small businesses where there's one or two people. And if someone comes in and threatens you and nicks all of your stuff, you're on your own.
Yeah.
So they really need to be able to crack down on that. And that should be one of the things on the list that people are worried about.
Yeah, no, indeed. And in terms of the kind of makeup at the moment of say, Reform's presence on any council, I mean, that's likely to go up, generally speaking.
It can only
isn't it?
go
I mean,
up.
It can only go up. I mean, we're hearing that they're looking at maybe getting something like 2,000 seats, possibly from a pretty low base.
I think it's completely open.
Yeah.
Where we are, there are actually two people who we took to a Reform meeting who've decided to stand for the Tories. So you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, right. Okay. And as far as the way it all changes again next year then, so what happens next year when they decide to launch this kind of change in the way everything's done?
So I'm part of the local team that's talking about how local government reorganisation will work. And so the idea is that people who are in the district council will probably still keep their jobs and have to work together. There's another set of elections next year.
Right.
So that will be for the new unitary authority.
And so where will all that be based then? Will it, I mean, for example, because people have asked me this question before, down in Rother particularly, if you've got Rother Council, who presumably have a building with people in it, you've also got East Sussex Council, which presumably has a building with people in it. Are they all going to go into the same building? What's going to happen?
We think that some of the people in Rother will keep their jobs and stay working in Rother.
Right.
East Sussex County Hall is semi-occupied because half of them work from home or...
Right. And where is that?
In Lewes.
Lewes, okay.
But we don't know. And the reason why people can't answer your question, what's it all about, is that this was, let's call it, an idea without a plan. And people in SW1 don't seem to know how things work out in the Shires.
Yeah.
We just don't... So when we're... One thing is about these neighbourhood boards, which are representing 50,000 people and have to be set up. And we're talking about those. And there's no clear guidance coming from central government because they haven't thought it through. They hadn't got a plan and they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, excellent. Then that's not really going to change, is it? Because, I mean, again, like you said, you've rearranged the deck chairs and all that.
Yeah.
But what actually is going to be any different? Is anything going to be any different? Is it going to be easier to get things done? Is it going to be easier to make decisions? You know, what is going to change exactly?
I think what will change is that if people aren't sure whether they should go to the district or the county, there will only be one thing. So therefore, they will know who to talk to. But if you take planning, at the moment, that's based near where you are. And that could all go centrally.
Yeah.
So my view is we need something in the central thing that knows about the parishes and districts, that knows the difference between Crowhurst and Catsfield or whatever.
There's somebody sitting in Brighton who's the mayor of Sussex or whatever, isn't going to know much about any of that.
No, they probably won't even know where it is. And one mayoral candidate listed the towns of coastal Sussex and forgot Bexhill.
Excellent.
So, you know.
It's quite a big place to forget, you know. I mean, you can't miss it really, can you? You know.
Well, it is fairly sort of off the beaten track.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't understand it. It seems to me to be a complete and utter waste of money and a complete and utter waste of time. And I don't understand why they're doing it.
I think it's basically because the larger number of local councils you have, the less easy it is to centrally impose whatever. And I think they thought of this idea before reform were fairly big.
Yeah.
And they hadn't anticipated the idea that someone else might win half of them.
Yes. Which will present them with a different problem.
Yes.
I presume. Yeah. Wow. Fascinating stuff. Nigel, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
That's, of course, coming up on Thursday of next week. We'll be here, of course, throughout the course of next week. It's Bank Holiday Monday. We'll also be here Bank Holiday Monday as well. But yeah, if you want to go out and vote, you should. And even if you don't want to, you should, because, you know, they are going to be running your life for the next few years. So you really ought to get stuck in to choosing who it is that you want to do that. Coming up though, are we going to go to UK Live today? We're going to stick with this, okay? Because we've got a few sound problems, so we might as well stick with where we are. Every now and again, I get messages from people saying there's no echo, and then I get another message saying there is an echo, and then other people say actually the sound's not been that bad. You never really know, do you? I mean, people are saying things like turn down the volume on your iPad. I haven't got any volume on my iPad, you know. So let's have a couple of super chats, shall we, before we speak to Christian Drogan. Is Christian there?
Christian's having my iPad, but we'll go to the bishop then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's have a super chat first then, shall we?
Can I see that?
Hey?
Can I see it?
I can't see it on the screen, no. No, I mean, I'd read it if I could see it. I mean, it has to be said. But if you can't do it, you can't do it.
Here you go.
No, not seeing it.
Oh, weird. Right, okay, I'll look into that.
Okay, well, we won't do super chats then. And we got the Bish.
Yes, we do.
The Bishop is here. Kai Dewar. A very good morning to you, sir. I'm not seeing him either.
Oh,
I don't know. What's up? Oh, there he is.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Good morning, sir. How are you? I can hear music as well. What are you doing?
Hey, we can genuinely say, thank God it's Friday.
I know. We literally can say, thank God it's Friday. Yeah. Yeah, but there's a lot of gremlins playing up today. I don't know what's going on. I think we've been hacked again. It seems to happen quite a lot. How the devil are you, as they say?
I'm doing well. It's been an interesting week. I can give you an update. The bikes are bought. They arrive in next week.
Okay.
And the car's back on the road, thanks be to God. So
Thank you.
Around. Unfortunately, the week had a bit of a bitter turn in the middle of it. We lost my brother-in-law on Wednesday.
Ah, I'm sorry to hear that.
So the wife's off to South Africa for the funeral. But yeah, it's been a fantastic week. God is good. And, you know, I get to spend this morning with your great self. And I was laughing my socks off listening to Jobber. What a guy. I really hope, I can't wait to take him out for a pint just to
He's a great guy. Yeah, he's a wonderful guy, and he's got some stories, as you can imagine, as we all have, from our days in Fleet Street. Some of them can never be told. Some of them will stay secret forever. But it was
I've spent many an hour in Fleet Street, but for completely different reasons.
Absolutely right. So what else has been going on in your world?
Not much. With my brother-in-law passing, I kind of shifted everything. But
yeah.
I was overjoyed. I'll tell you this, we had such a fantastic experience Monday because when they sent the first payment through from the GoFundMe, I got the car straight in the garage to get it back on the road, which was the principal point. And as I'm walking out of the garage, a young gentleman called Di greeted me, and I know Di, so he follows what we do. And then he was talking to the guys at the garage. And as a result of that, when I first dropped it off, they said, oh, it'd be about 3 or 4 days before it's ready, because they were going to fit it in around but they literally dropped tools to get the car done by 3:30 that afternoon. So we were really blessed. You know, it's and it's thanks to your good self, because they're all, you know, followers of the show and
great.
And yeah, so I can't thank you enough. So yes, aside from the little bit of sadness, this has been a truly blessed week. And again, I get to spend Friday morning with you, and I am thankful every week for this incredible opportunity that you've afforded me. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in person on the 15th as well. Can't believe that's coming around real quick.
Oh yes, I know, absolutely right. So much to talk about, I suppose, in terms of the way that the world is unfolding. We've got the big elections coming up. I mean, in Wales, you guys could have a new government, I suppose. I don't know
Well,
whether
we
you
are,
want
we
to
are
go
exceedingly hopeful because nobody could be worse than Labour have been for the last 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, but it's quite a big thing, isn't it, for Labour to suddenly lose Wales? I mean, not suddenly, but over, it's taken them a long time to lose Wales, but they've been losing it for quite some time, haven't they?
They have. Right now, my concern is not so much the fact that Labour are very much on course to be decimated in these polls. It's who's going to emerge as the largest party on the morning of the 8th. And the concern is that, of course, if we have Plaid Cymru, which is the Welsh equivalent of the Scottish Nationalists, what they would try and do if they have a majority, or worse, that they will try and form a coalition with the deposed Labour if Labour have enough seats. And again, in retrospect, we have Labour still affecting policy, which has decimated Wales. There's no good. There's no other way of saying it. I've said it for many, many years, and people just didn't believe what I've said. But if you wanted to see what Starmer's national government was going to be like, take a look at what Labour's done to Wales. The NHS is in a terrible state, but we've had 6 of the 7 NHS trusts in special measures multiple times in Wales. As a result of the terrible management. I give you an example of it, and here we go digressing. Give the bishop microphone and he won't stop talking, I promise you. But where I live, for example, we're in desperate need in the local A&E of frontline nurses. Their salary is £38,000 a year. And we could afford at least 6 of those if we replaced the 3 completely unnecessary diversity, equity, and inclusion officers, equality and inclusion officers, that are employed at nearly £80,000 a year. And that's just 3 in A&E, despite the multiple others around the entire hospital. So this whole thing of change in Labour needs a massive overhaul. Now, I'm the first to admit I'm anti-devolved parliaments. I don't believe in them at all.
Yeah.
I think we should have the pandemic was proof of that. We had Labour making rules for Wales that were not affected at all in England, and just 2 or 3 days before Christmas, at the first year of the pandemic, put the whole country into a lockdown with less than 30 minutes notice, whilst they'd signed the order in the morning and made sure that they'd got everything they needed, because there was social media footage allegedly of the then First Minister Mark Drakeford stocking up his shopping cart in a local supermarket before the order was enacted. So they've devastated small business, they've devastated the economy, they've devastated healthcare, they've enacted what they call the RSE bill, where they're now teaching 3-year-olds about sexual education in schools, which to me is absolutely morally vacuous and abhorrent. And I'm not one that ever really endorses individual parties, but I will say this: I can't wait to see the back of Labour in Wales, because hopefully we get a non-nationalist party, the government party. We do something productive for Wales.
Yeah.
Get us on our feet.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on the whole devolution thing. I was there in 1999 in Wales when the vote went through, and the answer was yes. And I just don't think it's changed anything for the better. I don't think it's added anything. All it's done is added a whole load of extra cost to the public, who now pay for more than one parliament. Because they have to pay for the one in Cardiff Bay as well as the one in Westminster. It just seems to me to be just a waste of time.
Well, on Thursday, it's not just paying for the extra parliament. On Thursday, the Welsh Parliament voted to change their structure. So we increased the number of members from 60 to 96 as a result.
Oh, wow. I thought they'd voted that down. So they've got that through now.
No, that goes through. So our entire voting system changes this week. Our constituencies change from 40 to 32. From 40 constituencies to 16 regions. We will now have at least 6 candidates per region, totaling 96. And that initial change is costing the Welsh taxpayer at least 150 million extra, plus the additional costs per year. It's glorified middle management that does nothing. But create problems and costs us money that could be far better used in places that really need it the most.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Now, we always have you on a Friday because we like to get a message from you, a little sermon for the people to ponder upon and to think about over the course of the weekend. So let's have it.
Well, thank you very much. I've been thinking a lot this week because of what's happened in my family about the spirit. What kind of spirit do we walk in? Are we looking at the spirit of the age? And if we live in the spirit, then we should also walk in the spirit. There is a single line from St. Paul's epistle to the Galatians in chapter 5, verse 25. That is not merely advice for us, but it is a summons. It is a command to a civilization very much like ours that is standing at a crossroads. Now, you and I are living in days of extraordinary noise. Rage is marketed as strength. Outrage is mistaken for wisdom. Disorder is excused as freedom. And in recent days, particularly this week, our nation has once again witnessed scenes of absolute horror, of violence, of grief, and deep public unease. And many of us are asking the same question. What is happening to us? But perhaps the deeper question we should ask is this: what spirit are we walking in? St. Paul does not say merely believe in the Spirit. He does not say admire the Spirit. He says that we should walk in the Spirit. Now, walking is a daily thing. Walking is a deliberate thing. Walking gives direction. See, it's possible to call oneself a Christian and yet be walking according to the flesh. It's possible to have the language of faith and yet be governed by bitterness, by lust, by pride, by vengeance, by envy, by tribal hatred, even be governed by self-worship. And, my brothers, my sisters, if enough individuals do this, eventually an entire nation begins to reflect it. See, I've long said the crisis of Britain is not first economic. It is not first political. It's not even first institutional. It is spiritual. A people cannot endlessly reject God and remain morally coherent. When prayer is removed from public life, other voices rush in. When truth is abandoned, appetite becomes the king of the soul. When worship disappears, idols multiply endlessly. My brothers, my sisters, idols are cruel masters. Now, we see it everywhere. Families are fractured. Children are confused. Communities are suspicious of one another. Public discourse is poisoned by contempt. Leaders are terrified of speaking the truth. Citizens are very angry, but often unable to explain the true source of the anger they feel. Because beneath all of this is a starvation of the soul. St. Paul contrasts the work of the flesh with the fruit of the Spirit. The flesh produces hatred, strife, jealousy, wrath, selfish ambition, divisions. Does this sound familiar? See, the Spirit produces love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, even self-control. Now, wherever you are, tell me honestly, which one of those two descriptions sounds more like the modern Britain we live in? We have become a nation that is trying to legislate peace without cultivating virtue. And my brothers, my sisters, history has shown us that never works. You cannot police your way into righteousness. You cannot regulate your way into holiness. You cannot rebuild a civilization while mocking the very God who gave it its moral foundations. See, the answer today is not merely better policy, although I agree that we really do need it. The answer is not merely stronger borders, but that order matters immensely. The answer is not merely louder protests, although in this day and age, absolute courage is absolutely necessary. The answer, my brothers, my sisters, the answer is repentance. And that is a word that modern Britain hates to hear. So let me say it again. Repentance. Not because it is cruel, but because it is honest. Repentance says the problem is not out there. The problem is in here. It is in the human heart. That includes mine. That includes yours. That includes every minister in Parliament, every bishop and priest in a pulpit, every commentator behind a microphone, every citizen scrolling through their phones in anger in the midnight hours. We must all ask ourselves, what spirit am I walking in? Because darkness is not overcome by shouting at it. It is overcome by light. If we live in the Spirit, then let us walk in the Spirit. Walk in forgiveness when vengeance feels easier. Walk in truth when lies are profitable. Walk in chastity when indulgence is celebrated. Walk in courage when silence is safer. Walk in holiness when compromise is fashionable. Walk, not perform, not posture. Walk. The Christian faith is not theater. It is transformation. Britain does not need another performance. It needs a revival of its spirit. Not shallow religion, not political costume Christianity, not vague spirituality with no cross and no repentance. It needs men and women who fear God more than they fear public opinion. It needs fathers who pray, mothers who teach faith, churches that preach the truth without conformity or apology, and leaders who understand that law without moral order is merely managed decline. And yes, it needs Christians who are willing to be unfashionable, because every generation must decide whether it will be discipled by Christ or by the chaos. There is no neutral ground. The Spirit of God does not lead us into confusion, hatred, or cultural suicide. He leads us into truth. He leads us into order. He leads us into life. And so today, my brothers, my sisters, amidst the sorrow and the uncertainty of these very turbulent times, I simply say quite plainly to you all, do not surrender your soul to the spirit of the age. Do not let fear become hatred. Do not let anger become cruelty. Do not let grief become despair. Walk in the Spirit. For where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Not the counterfeit liberty of doing whatever we please, but the true freedom of becoming what we were created by God to be: holy, steady, courageous, alive. And if enough people begin there, not in Westminster, but in their own hearts, then perhaps this nation may yet remember itself. Perhaps Britain may yet kneel before God and rise again. For if we live in the Spirit, let us walk in that Spirit. And may God give us the courage to do exactly that, as we simply say, Lord, I give you my life. Amen.
Amen, indeed. Brilliant stuff, as ever. Bishop Kai Dewar, thank you so much indeed. Have a wonderful weekend. Bank holiday
Thank you,
coming
my
up,
brother. I'll
of
see you
course.
next week.
And we'll talk to you next week. Great stuff. Thank you very much indeed. Bishop Kai Dewar there with his sermon for all of us to ponder over the course of the weekend. Things are not as they should be, as we well know. And we've got the threat now of the increased tensions because of that stabbing over the weekend, during the week rather. Brace for more terror attacks is what it says on the front page of The Sun. The man Essa Suleiman, 45 years of age, has now been charged with attempted murder of 2 Jewish men in Golders Green. But the British are being told to brace themselves for more terror attacks. We have pretty much come to the end of the show. Thank you very much indeed for sticking with us. And we had a few issues, one or two. Sometimes that happens. Many of you seem to have been affected more than others. Some people say it was fine. Other people say it wasn't. It's one of those things, I'm afraid. Love the show with gaffes included. Makes it real, says Mrs. A. Yeah. Well, we don't mean to have gaffes. We just sort of get them. It's one of those things, I'm afraid. Mick says, good morning, Mike. All love and respect to the Bishop. Thanks for lifting our spirits. Absolutely right. Super chat coming in from David. Should the Green Party be renamed the Groin Party, as more of their policies relate to groin issues than green issues? Not bad, that, actually. I might adopt that. Marcus says this. Companies should give non-smokers extra break time. Well, I don't know about that. Mick says this. Morning, everyone. A mate of mine is a bus driver and he respectfully asked the government to stop throwing people under his bus. Paperwork is a bleeding nightmare. Mike Pooch, Charlotte, Kelvin, Phil, fantastic love to all. Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Some lovely messages coming in, actually. And Mark says this. Marcus said, cheese? Cheese? Okay. Is that because you're taking a picture? I don't know. Don't forget, coming up tonight, of course, it's Plank of the Week, 7 o'clock. Lucy Connolly is one of the guests of honour. And we've also got Jamie Jenkins on today. Who else did we have? And Steve Van Allen, of course, yeah. And then tomorrow, Plonk of the Week with Lucy Connolly as well. She stayed around to do a bit of drinking, which was all very good. And we will see you, of course, back here on Monday as well. Keep an eye out over the weekend for my weekend wind-up, which is going to be good. And lots of other goodies and clips and things going out all the way through Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we'll be back here on Monday morning at 7 o'clock. Thanks to Charlotte for doing such a great job. Thanks to Pooch, who's away, but he's been brilliant, still kind of monitoring things from afar. And thanks to all of you for watching. We'll see you later on.